It's time for Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. For the next 3 hours, it's high school basketball from across the Mountain State. Live from Marshall University, here's your host, Ryan Epling.
It is week 2 of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling alongside Bill Cornwell and Joe Linville. Happy to have you along on this unseasonably warm but seasonably wet December the 14th, 2018. We've only got 2 more shows left in the year after tonight.
That's hard to believe.
And then,
it's flying by.
Then we'll be into 2019. Another week before Christmas, too. A lot of teams will be playing in holiday tournaments over the course of the next few weeks. Some of them have been going on now. To me, and we'll get to our first scoreboard update in just a second, but Joe, to me, a lot of times early in the season, people schedule on different philosophies. Some schools will go ahead and schedule 3 or 4 games right out of the chute, basically, in the first 2 weeks, and others will, you talk about Woodrow Wilson and Beckley, they sometimes won't play hardly until the new year.
Right. I was talking to one of the Scott Lady coaches today. They played this morning down south. They play in Wirt County, I think, tomorrow. Then they got another game Monday. He said, I don't know who did our schedule, but it's hard to get a practice in there to prepare for your next game.
Yes, and of course, we'll look into this. Wirt County schools were actually closed today because of illness. Mm-hmm. So it was apparently a safety issue because there was the bug is flying around Elizabeth and around Wirt County. So
as long as they keep it north, we're in good shape.
Yeah, let's just contain this and get through it. But Bill Cornwell, this time of year, most of the kids who played football on the boys' side are back in a basketball uniform now. Most of them have gotten all the practices in and can go. We're just now at the fringe of starting to see how good these teams can be.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be more that are joining next week. I know a couple of, for instances, here in the Huntington area. Of course, Spring Valley got 2 All-Staters in Grayson Malashevich and Doug Nestor, who play in basketball. Of course, outstanding football players. And matter of fact, Malashevich won the Fulton Walker Award this week as the best special teams player in the state, and Nestor's gonna just clean up as far as lineman awards. But those guys had to get their practices in, and they're among all of them that are getting those mandatory workouts in. And really next week we'll really get that full view of what a team is going to look like as far as who's going to be playing, who's going to be in good bench people. Who's going to be the consistent leaders on teams, and we'll get that taste. And another thing that starts next week, too, guys, is you start to get a little of that holiday tournament feel. I mean, there'll be some next week, and then a bunch of them between Christmas and New Year's. And
we always ask for your help when it comes to those holiday tournaments. They are so hard to get information on sometimes. You sometimes get partial information. The more you can send to us at @hoops_roundup on Twitter, or just go to basketballnight.com. There are 100 ways to contact us there. Just keep us up to date. Help us help you. And really, this is a show that requires the audience to
audience participation.
Not just participate, but we need your help. And we'll help spread the word out once we can get it from you. But we know that you are here for scores, and scores is what we are here to give you. So let's get our first look at the Marshall University Sports Journalism BasketballNight.com scoreboard. Joe, lead us off with the boys' scores.
All right, taking a look at the boys' scores from across the state. Got quite a few in early tonight. It's the Kaiser Golden Tornadoes who fell to East Fairmont tonight by a score of 65-61. At the half, James Monroe leads Narrows, Virginia by a score of 54-10. In a final, Hedgesville knocks off Heritage Academy, Maryland 64-53. And this is a final. Bluefield knocks off Mount View this evening by a score of 73-28. Another final, it's East Hardy knocks off Moorfield 72-59. At the half, it's Musselman and Woodgrove, Virginia, all tied up at 22. In one of the games from the Ioga tournament today, Nicholas County holds off Tucker County by a score of 82-74. That is a final. Another final, Nitro knocks off Herbert Hoover 53-28. it is the Wheeling Park Patriots knocking off Martins Ferry, Ohio by a score of 60-53. Greenbrier West leads the Charleston Catholic Irish, this game at the end of the third quarter, by a score of 50-30. Another score at the end of 3. Logan Wildcats and the Scott Skyhawks both going into the night's game undefeated. Logan controlling this game, though, after 3 by a score of 53-35. Midland Trail leads Richwood 63-58 in a close one. That one also at the end of the third quarter. This one in the fourth quarter, it is Oak Hill leading Westside by a score of 52-42. Pikeview at the half, Pikeview trails Princeton 43-19. It is Wirt County over Ravenswood. Presume that is a final 52-46. At the half, St. Joe of Huntington leads the Sherman Tide 30-17. Another score at the end of 3. South Charleston, the Black Eagles, lead Spring Valley 70-57. In a final, it is Wheeling Central over Magnolia 92-38. And at the half, Oak Glen leads Lindsley by a score of 35-31.
All right, time to look at these girls' scores. Final from the event at West Virginia State. Riverview beat Scott 49-32. Also, final the Huntington St. Joe Irish over Wyoming East 80-53. It was Bel Air, Ohio, losing to Wheeling Park this evening by a score of 44-37. Charleston Catholic over Greater Beckley Christians Crusaders 35-22. Third quarter score, North Marion leading East Fairmont's Bees 62-36. At halftime, it's Philip Barber, a 33-31 lead over Grafton. Final, Hedgesville loses to Musselman 51-46. Halftime score, Frankfurt leading Kaiser 36-23. Logan takes care of Tulsa this evening by a score of 42-37. Ryan?
As your check of the Marshall University Sports Journalism BasketballNight.com scoreboard. Also going on today in Institute, West Virginia, the home of West Virginia State University, is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes Hoops Classic. They've had games all day long, boys games, girls games, and including some private schools that aren't in the SSAC, but still getting an opportunity to play on in a nice arena at West Virginia State. Still a fairly new place, and really one of the crown jewels of basketball within West Virginia right now. Earlier today, Calvary Baptist, the Patriots, picked up a win over New Life Christian, Brian Sexton. Anytime that Calvary Baptist is involved, you might hear his voice, be it in a public address or broadcasting role. And Brian, nice win today for the Patriots.
Ryan, good to be on with you guys. How you doing this evening?
Doing fantastic.
Yeah, we had a big win today. Of course, we're off to a 7-2 start after today's win. We got out ahead of it a little bit earlier this year than most, and we took on New Life Christian Academy out of Summersville in the Hoops Classic there at West Virginia State. And Keith Tyler and the folks at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes do an unbelievable job with this tournament. But we took out the Lions today 74-57. Our senior point guard, Captain Isaac Massey, had 23 points. And Ryan, I got to tell you, Isaac Massey is probably the best guard in the state of West Virginia that nobody will hear of or have heard about until this year. Just a phenomenal player. I had 5 threes in the game. Our big guy, Robert Clutter, 6'5" junior, had 16 to help us out. And guard Luke Polly chipped in with 10. And we just took over early and started putting them away there in the second half.
Calvary Baptist is part of the Christian Association of Schools. I don't have the correct name on that, but the Christian Association of Schools within West Virginia. Again, not in the SSAC, but still very competitive tournament play among other like schools. And Calvary Baptist has been right in the thick of things the last few years.
Yeah, and Ryan, it's funny because you mentioned that we're not an SSAC school, but half of our schedule this year is against SSAC schools. We went down to Beckley on Monday night, played Greater Beckley, of course, there in the WVCAT, the West Virginia Christian Athletic Tournament, but they are an SSAC school, and so we have had Tulsa that we've played so far this year. We've had Hannon that we've played so far this year. We'll host Point Pleasant Tuesday night. We actually have a home-and-home with Point Pleasant. We'll take on Huntington St. Joe next Friday night in Ripley at the Ripley Holiday Tournament. And, if we were able to knock off the Irish next Friday night, we would take on the host school, which is Ripley. We play Cabell Midland this year, believe it or not. So, yeah, we've got quite a bit of SSAC schools that are on our schedule this year that we're excited to play, and it makes our schedule that much more competitive, Ryan.
Should be a lot of fun this year, and I know you were telling me about the guard play. It's sometimes hard to follow these schools because, quite frankly, their scores don't necessarily always make the paper. But I also know that it's a very highly competitive division, and there are some excellent basketball players who are there. And it's just because it's not necessarily as well publicized doesn't mean the quality's not there.
Well, and I tell you something, we've been very fortunate. We have a young man that's a graduate of our school, Justice Hutchinson, who played a couple of years ago, that's playing down at Alice Lloyd. And so again, you're going to see kids that may not necessarily play Division I basketball, but they'll play in a smaller school, maybe an NAIA level school, or quite possibly a Division III school. But to your point, very competitive. And the thing about Isaac Massey, the young man I was telling you about, is that he's got excellent range. I mean, it's nothing for him to pull up from about 22, 23, 25 feet and just knock it down to the bottom of the jar. He's a phenomenal shooter, has great range. As I mentioned to you, hit 5 threes today and had 2 or 3 more that rimmed out on him there at West Virginia State. And, those rims there, Ryan, are a little bit softer. The college rims are just a tad softer than when we play on normally. But, we were still able, Isaac was still able to knock down 5 threes. And man, he's a phenomenal player. A lot of folks in the tri-state area and around the state. Hopefully, we'll get to come out and watch him play, especially when we're in Ripley next weekend.
Busy week ahead for Calvary Baptist. Home game against Point Pleasant. Trip to Tays Valley Christian, and then against Ripley against St. Joe in Ripley in the holiday tournament, and then a championship or consolation game to follow that next week. Busy week. Brian Sexton, voice of the Patriots. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Ryan, appreciate a couple minutes. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. And we'll go right back to the phone lines in just a moment. But, Bill, being in this area, we're familiar with some of the schools in the Huntington area that aren't necessarily well known. And there are schools like that throughout the state that other people are going to be more familiar with than we are directly. And sometimes I think there's this perception that, they don't play at the same level or
they're not good enough.
Right.
No, they are.
And they are. They're competitive and they're fun to watch for the most part.
They are fun to watch, and the quality of the basketball at those schools gets better and better each year. And Brian was talking about his team. They have, in the last 2 or 3 years, just gone up, but great strides. And kids are actually going there to play basketball. It's not just an educational thing, because they have good coaching. They've improved their facilities. And as he mentioned, they're really stretching themselves a little bit as far as their scheduling. And they're just not playing among each other as far as the Christian schools. They're playing a lot of public schools. And of course, as he mentioned, Greater Beckley Christian actually is in the SSAC now. So they've taken the big leap. And, some of these other schools may make that jump as well.
We're going to step aside now, take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk with Bill Nestor, WPDX in Clarksburg. Robert C. Byrd off to a fantastic start to the 2018-2019 season. We'll talk about that and much more when Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia continues here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
For scores online, all of them in West Virginia, visit basketballnight.com. Does showing up for work at a ballpark or an arena sound good to you? A Marshall University sports journalism degree can get you there. Sports journalism at Marshall is serious, and it's big business. Sports media and communications careers are some of the most competitive and marketable. We'll prepare you to think critically, report accurately, and artfully tell the stories on and off the field or court. If this sounds like you, the Marshall School of Journalism is ready and eager to start your journey. Learn more at marshall.edu/SOJMC. Join us tonight and vote in this week's poll. You've got till 11:45 tonight, and then we'll share the voting results with you. This week's question: should there be a running clock mercy rule in high school basketball? Vote yes or no. Go to basketballnight.com to vote in this week's poll. You'll see the poll on the right-hand side of the page. You've got till 11:45 tonight to vote. And, of course, we'll share the results at the end of the show this evening. Basketball Friday night. West Virginia's high school basketball voice. Many places to listen and watch basketball Friday night in West Virginia. We're on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State. Just click on our affiliates page at basketballnight.com for the station nearest you. You can also watch our high-definition video on YouTube. Go to basketballnight.com. Just click to watch. We're also on Facebook Live. Shout out to our newest follower on Twitter, Taylor Spratt. Thanks for being part of the Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia family.
Celebrating high school basketball around the Mountain State. You're listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
9:16, now 9:17 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling alongside Joe Linville and Bill Cornwell. Happy to have you along for week number 2 of the program as we are covering high school basketball, boys and girls, all throughout the Mountain State. We'll talk with the head coach of the Van girls, Stephanie LaFouch, in just a moment. But first, let's go right back to the phone lines. Bill Nestor, WPDX in Clarksburg, voice of the Robert C. Byrd Flying Eagles. And Bill, Eagles are flying well to this point.
So far, so good, Ryan. After we talked last week, Robert C. Byrd's reeled off 3 more wins, so 4-0, getting a lot of opportunities early in the season and playing pretty good so far.
And playing some teams that have a little bit of cachet behind them as well. Most of the Big Ten does, but right now, stepping outside of the Big Ten, wins over Winfield, Wyoming East, and then wins over Philip Barber and Lincoln. So while Wyoming East is down a little bit, allegedly, we'll see how that plays out through the course of the season. A 14-point win for the Eagles in that one, a 13-point win over Winfield. Those are 2 schools that perennially are threats to make it to Charleston, and the Eagles prove to be double digits better right now.
You know, Ryan, both those teams very impressive in their play. That Polar Bear Classic was a great opportunity for all 4 of those teams to get their feet wet, including the host, Fairmont Senior. And for Robert C. Byrd, the trend that took place during those first 2 games, and ironically has continued on, is that they have played well in the first halves, but really put their foot on the gas in the second half, especially the fourth quarter of play. In that Polar Bear Classic, that was the key, with Winfield and also Wyoming East. And by the way, Wyoming East plays very hard. They've got some great players. But I think what happened in that contest, to Robert C. Byrd's advantage, was the fact the Warriors played the late game the opening night, and then Robert C. Byrd had a little bit more of a rest between games. So I think that was a benefit for him. Wyoming East didn't really play as well as or as aggressively, didn't seem to have the pep in the step as they did in the opening night against the Polar Bears. So RCB kind of caught them at the right time. And so that was kind of a big factor in that one. But the last 2 games that you talked about, Philip Barber on Tuesday and then last night with Lincoln, Robert C. Byrd also, the same kind of thing happened. Good, solid first half of play, but really impressive in the second half. So it seems to be a trend, and hopefully it'll continue for them as they continue on. But, we talked last week before you got over to the, to the broadcast booth there that the thing for Robert C. Byrd early on in December was to get a lot of games in kind of see where they're at, get a measuring stick, and go from there. And so far, it's been beneficial in RCB to get these games in. One more game here prior to Christmas, and then they'll crank it up with a big road trip to Oak Hill on the 29th. So a couple more left before we get to the new year. So it's a great opportunity for this Flying Eagle team, who seems to be playing very good basketball here as of late.
Hey, Bill, over the years, you and I have talked about, the formation of RCB High School and so forth, and getting the community involved. Going 4-0, how is the community, are they rallying around behind this basketball team this season?
Joe, they have. That's what's happened. I think when coming into the season, a lot of people thought it'd be a good team. The nucleus coming back. A lot of freshmen played last year. Those freshmen now are sophomores. So the starting lineup looks like this: one senior, one junior, 3 sophomores. So everybody knew that this team had some talent and would play well. But the early success in that Polar Bear Classic really has stirred interest, even more interest. It piqued some people. So the season opening home game was last night with Lincoln, and a bigger crowd than usual on hand. So I think the community excited about it. They knew there was something there. The nucleus was there. How would they gel, especially early? That was a question. And because of those early wins, everybody's excited. So a lot of attendance, and it continues to grow there. That's a good thing because in the past, and we've talked about that, the attendance hasn't been what it could be or should be for this team. And so an opportunity to get some backing from the community, and I think that's going to help them out as the season goes on. They always get the big crowds for the crosstown rival Bridgeport game and some of the other games. Last year when Oak Hill came to town, a nice sizable crowd. But just in general, not really the crowd they'd like to have. So this early success has definitely paid dividends, and saw a very big crowd last night against the Cougars.
Robert C. Byrd now 4-0, and will take on East Fairmont on Tuesday in a road trip for the Flying Eagles. Bill Nasser, WPDX, always a pleasure.
Guys, thanks for having me on. Have a great rest of the show and a great weekend as well.
Thanks, greatly appreciate that. Once again, that's Bill Nasser, WPDX, the voice of the Robert C. Byrd Flying Eagles. Let's go right back to the phone. Stephanie LaFouche is the head coach of the Van Bulldogs girls basketball team. Coach, welcome to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Hey, thanks for having me. How are you all?
We're doing fantastic tonight. Just looking to talk a little bit about your basketball team and how they have fared early on in this season.
We've fared pretty good. We're competing tomorrow up at Glenville State. They asked us to come last year to participate in a tournament that they have up there, the IOGA basketball tournament at Glenville. So we did that this past Tuesday. We went up and, they did pretty good. Our numbers are a little bit low this year. We have 11. I had 10 come out. I got a little girl injured. I had somebody come out a little bit later. The numbers aren't what they were last year, but we have our core group of kids back. We lost 2 seniors last year, but we have our 2 highest scorers back. We were able to play Valley Wetzel on Tuesday, which is not a team that we would normally see because of the distance involved in travel. We played them pretty well. Our girls play a pretty fast-paced game. They seem to play better when they're playing in a fast-paced game, and you wouldn't think with low numbers that would be beneficial, but it's actually worked out kind of well for us in the first 4 games of the year. We traveled down to Tug Valley and lost to them last week. I think we're 3-1 right now. I don't get too hung up on records, but we have Haley Cook back, senior. She averages about 15 a game, and then actually my daughter's a junior, and in the first 3 games of this year, I think that I don't know averages and stats off the top of my head. I know that last year I think Cook averaged 14 a game, and I think Carly had 17 a game. And in the first 3 games this year, I think Carly's at 21 or something, and I think Haley Cook's at 15 or 16. We have a starting 5 of 2. We start 2 seniors and 3 juniors. So, they're getting used to each other. Weaver ended up leaving us at the beginning of the season, and the job was out there posted, and there's not a whole lot of takers.
Of course, you're no stranger to girls basketball. You've coached on the grade school levels and kind of worked your way up over the years. And you kind of touched on one thing, Van being one of the smaller schools in the state, and like you said, you only had like 11 on your roster. Just how tough is that when you get into a long game to give your players a rest and go deep into the bench?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You would think that would be a hindrance for us. But we've got we're pretty solid, about 7 solid. So and the ones we have out there, they're pretty in shape. And I'll be honest with you, they're the most competitive group of girls I've ever been around. They'll go until they absolutely cannot go anymore. And we've got 2 freshmen that are still learning. They're learning the system, they're learning plays, but they play pretty physical. They've come a long way, and this is a down year for us. But next year, we'll be losing 4 of the 11 are seniors, and next year we pick up 9 freshmen. So I think our numbers will be back up a little bit next year. As far as how the game goes, we play fast-paced the whole time, and, they stay in. Nobody needs a break. They go hard. They want to win. I like being around them. They're spunky.
The 2-1 Van. The 2-1 Van Bulldogs head to Gilmer County. Not Gilmer County, but head to Glenville State, to the Waco Center, to take on Gilmer County coming up tomorrow. Coach, always a pleasure. Wish you and your ladies the best of luck this season.
Thanks a lot. We'll be traveling down to Tulsa, I think, next Thursday to hang out with your buddy Rick. So,
you need to tell Rick hello because we haven't seen him
this year.
Yeah,
y'all haven't seen him?
No.
He's been persona non grata.
Well, I will make sure that I tell him that you guys were asking about him. He was concerned because you hadn't seen him.
We greatly appreciate that, and make sure they feed you well in the hospitality room too, because that's a top-notch place there for that. It's a phenomenal facility. We went up Tuesday and they were nothing but hospitable. It was the kids really liked it. It was a good experience for them playing, in a big gym and on the big floor. So they were a little bit nervous at first. At the end of the first quarter, we were down 6-11. That was the score. 6, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I said, "Girls, what is up?" And they're like, "This place is big." I said, "I don't care how big it is." So Carly ended up putting 20 points up in the second quarter. So after that, I think they found their groove a little bit. So they're excited to go back tomorrow for sure. Good. That's head coach Stephanie LaFouch of the Van Bulldogs. Coach, good luck tomorrow.
Hey, thanks a lot. See y'all later.
Thank you very much. And we've got to step aside, take a break. When we come back, we get another scoreboard update. We've also been trying to follow a couple of trends throughout high school basketball in the early portion of the season, and we'll present those to you when we come back as Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, break number 2. The show will roll on after this on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Every Friday night from 9 to midnight, we're the home for high school basketball in the Mountain State. This is Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Streaming video live from the studios at Marshall University. Visit basketballnight.com for video, audio, and the Basketball Friday Night scoreboard. Watch our live high-definition video stream by going to basketballnight.com. All it takes is just one click to watch. Listen online with any computer or mobile device by clicking the Listen Live tab. And of course, there's many other ways to listen. We're on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State. just click on our affiliates page for the station nearest you. You can watch us on YouTube, Facebook Live, Periscope. Statewide, we're on Suddenlinks Network West Virginia. In the Huntington area, we're on Comcast Channel 25 and Armstrong Cable Digital Channel 204. If you're watching right now, you see a lot of great pictures that you've sent to us, and we want you to send more pics. Send them to us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup, @hoops_roundup. Of course, you can send them to us by Facebook, and you can send them by email to scores@basketballnight.com. Scores@basketballnight.com. Give us your best pics of your team and your fans, and become a part of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. A shout out to some of our newest followers tonight on Twitter, including Taylor Spratt, Southeastern Ohio Preps, Finish Live, Blake Landis. They're all part of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
And we welcome you back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, live across the Fast Break Sports Network, all throughout the Mountain State on this 2nd December Friday night. The second full week of high school basketball throughout West Virginia. Again, if you want to give us a score, you can send that to us at @hoops_roundup on Twitter. You can go to basketballnight.com. Again, find the various ways that you can help us get scores out and how we can get scores to you. You can sign up and get the daily email that we have all the scores on. We're working on ironing out a couple of kinks on that. Still early in the season for us too, and amazing how technology, when you stop using it for like 3 months, stops working. But we'll get it all taken care of. And
the dust bunnies get in it, I guess.
That's right, yeah. And then we'll get them thoroughly cleaned up.
Actually, for the most part, we're adding a lot of things. We're actually thinking of more ways to get scores, to get information out to people. It's an evolving situation.
It is, and again, we enjoy that. We enjoy your pictures too. If you watch the video stream, either on one of the television channels that we're on, or if you watch it online on basketballnight.com, or however you access that, you see the pictures from gymnasiums all across West Virginia, some out of state too, when West Virginia teams go there, and it kind of gives you a sense of being able to take you into some of these places that you wouldn't normally get to see.
And I was just going to say, we're on Facebook now as well, so just about any social media outlet, we're there.
Everybody has Facebook. It just is.
It's just the natural thing to have.
It is. So, and we do have our Facebook page up and going this year, and the guys in the back, the folks in the back, I should say, guys and gals, do a tremendous job with that. So we just continue to try to be more and more comprehensive as we go along. And something that I think that this program does a good job of, when I talk about the program, I don't mean necessarily the three of us sitting here delivering the program. I'm talking about all the information that comes in behind us and that we're able to present to you. I really think that we've made this geographically challenged state of West Virginia a little smaller. I think,
and it's because we have a good team behind us.
Absolutely,
outstanding
that make
team.
us look good, right?
Yeah.
No, let's not damage the magic of radio too much here, But we have a great time bringing you these scores. We're going to talk with several more coaches, and we'll get some players mixed in throughout the evening as well. Just a good night for basketball, though. Weather not really a factor after having as much as 14 inches of snow in the Beckley area last weekend. That cleared up.
Thank goodness.
It was downright balmy today, into the 50s the last couple of days. So, a little bit of rain, but headed toward a sloppy weekend.
It's better than snow.
It is much better than snow. I wouldn't mind if it only snowed a little bit like the night of the 25th.
Yep.
And then cleared off about 3 o'clock that afternoon, and then we never saw any more until the next one. That's just me. But we know you're here for scores. we've got a bunch to get to tonight. Let's take another look at our Basketball Friday Night.com Marshall University Sports Journalism scoreboard. Bill, let's turn you loose with the boys' score.
All right. First off, final from up in the northern panhandle. Wheeling Park takes care of Martins Ferry, Ohio. Final score there was 60-53. Greenbrier West played Charleston Catholic this evening, and the Cavaliers get the win over the Irish 69-57. University Hawks beat John Marshall this evening 78-38. It was Scott falling to Logan 78-48. Big win for the Wildcats. Midland Trail beats Richwood 63-58. It was Oak Hill, a winner over Westside 52-42. Princeton beat Pikeview 80-45. It was Worth County 52, Ravenswood 46. Huntington St. Joe, a halftime score over the Sherman Tide 30-17. Final in the MSAC, South Charleston beat Spring Valley 99-85. It was Wheeling Central taking care of Magnolia 92-38. Williamstown beat Ritchie County 69-53. Third quarter score, Oak Glen leading Lindsley 60-40. And final, Martinsburg all over Washington this evening 90-29. Time for girls' scores.
All right, taking a look at the girls' scores from across the state. In the Petersburg tip-off tournament, it was Moorfield knocking off Pendleton County tonight by a score of 65-28. Earlier today in that tournament down at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes tournament down at West Virginia State Riverview, the Raiders knocked off the Lady Skyhawks of Scott by a score of 42-39. Another finals, St. Joe Central knocks off Wyoming East by a score of 80-53. It was the Lady Black Eagles of South Charleston winning over crosstown rival the Capital Cougars by a score of 74-38. It was Wheeling Park defeating Bel Air, Ohio, 44-37. It was Greater Beckley Christian, the Lady Crusaders, falling to Charleston Catholic Irish today by a score of 35-22. The North Marion Huskies, winners tonight over East Fairmont, 66-41. In overtime, the Philip Barber Colts defeated Grafton by a score of 57-56. In a final, Musselman knocks off Hedgesville 51-46. It was the Lady Golden Tornadoes of Kaiser defeating Frankfort tonight 63-54. The Logan Lady Wildcats defeated Tulsa earlier today by a score of 42-37. Buchanan Upshur find themselves winners tonight in the Ioga tournament, 54-50 over Bridgeport. And it was the Summers County Bobcats knocking off the Lady Cavaliers of Greenbrier West in the Rogers Oil tournament by a score of 73-28.
That is a check of your Marshall University Sports Journalism BasketballNight.com scoreboard. One of the many teams off to an impressive start this year, the Crusaderettes of Parkersburg Catholic, 4-0 on the season. As a ball club that has really won its games handily to this point. The closest of those 4 wins was a 15-point victory over Madonna. Joining us now is Marty Vierheller, the head coach of the Crusaderettes. And Coach, couldn't ask for a much better start to the season for your ball club.
Well, yeah, that's right. Ryan, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I wanted to make sure we're right back from scouting, so I don't want to put your listeners in a bad spot. But, yeah, we're off to a really good start. We had some quality wins against Ritchie, Tyler, Madonna, and Worth County, and the girls are doing everything that we're asking them to do, and it's a lot of fun so far.
Well, tomorrow you take on Wheeling Central, the reigning Class A state champions. So while as often as going to start as you could imagine, tomorrow you really get the litmus test of where you stand in terms of trying to compete for a state title.
Yeah, Ryan, you're exactly right. I mean, we have so much respect for Coach Kurtz and the Wheeling Central program. They just compete for state championships year in, year out, and last year was their year. And we just felt when we put this year's schedule together that we owed it to our girls to beef up our non-conference schedule as much as we could. We have a lot of good teams in the Little Kanawha Conference, but we wanted to go outside of the conference a little bit, and we're competing at Wheeling Central, as you mentioned, tomorrow, and then we go to Tucker County later on in the year, and that's a perennial state tournament team as well. So, we certainly know that if we want to be ready for March, we've got to start preparing for really great competition right now, and tomorrow certainly is a good example of that.
Coach, looking at your schedule, we see that you got an event coming up between Christmas and New Year's that those of us who've followed women's basketball in the state a long time brings back a lot of good memories. A tournament in honor of Mary Ostrowski.
Oh, yeah, exactly, and that's our marquee event. The Mario Crusaderette Classic. We actually renamed that tournament the Crusaderette Classic. We changed the name to honor Mario a few years ago, and rightfully so. Mary really put, as far as we're concerned, put West Virginia girls basketball on the map. Yeah. And she certainly is even though she passed away a number of years ago, we lost her to blood cancer. She still is an integral part of our family, and we think a lot of the Ostrowskis, and we're hoping that that's a good event for us.
It's definitely a name that her name kind of came back up a couple years ago when Pat Summitt passed away. Mary O was was an outstanding player at the University of Tennessee kind of early on in Pat Summitt's reign there. And like you mentioned, she really did put girls basketball on the map within the state of West Virginia, or not only within the state of West Virginia, but carried it beyond the borders. One thing I wanted to talk about, Coach, your last game, victory over Wirt County, 88-13. I know Wirt County's got some illness issues right now. They even closed school today because of a county-wide situation there. But that was a Wirt County team that was undefeated. You get that win. And something that stuck out to me, your ball club went on a 66-0 run in that game.
Yeah, that's true. And, before we go any further, I really have a lot of respect for Coach Hughes and the job that he's doing at Wirt County. And, one of the fears that I had during that run and during that game was, oh my goodness, people are going to open the paper in the morning and say, what in the world was Catholic thinking, going up there and running it up on Wirt County like that. And honestly, Coach Hughes was great after the game, and he even mentioned, he said, that basically, this was really something what you did, and he was very classy about it. We played everybody that we had, and Madeline Huffman is a returning first-team All-Stater. And even though we scored 88 points, Madeline only had 9 points, and I think that shows it's really a good example of what kind of team we have. We just have a lot of depth. We're just blessed this year. That's the word I came up with. I mean, we are. This is the deepest team I've ever coached, and they're very, very, very unselfish, and we do like to get after it defensively, and it was a good night for us, but it certainly was not done in any kind of way to try to embarrass Wirt County at all.
I think a lot of times the people who cast such we'll call accusations of that are people who don't go to games and don't think logically about how everyone handles it, because sometimes you just look at a score and you draw a conclusion. That's not at all the way to go about things in terms of blindly decreeing something when you weren't at the game to know how it went.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's a fair assessment for sure. And again, Coach Hughes thought so too. So he had a rough week. He Wirt played us and then had to turn right around and play Williamstown, and that's a pretty tough week for Wirt County. But they're going to keep getting better, and like I said, I give them a lot of respect.
Well, Coach, your ball club making the trip to Wheeling tomorrow, taking on Wheeling Central. Marty Bierheller, the head coach of the Parkersburg Catholic Crusaderettes. Thanks for joining us, and best wishes tomorrow. And hopefully we get to talk to you a little bit later on in the season as well.
Well, I'd love to do that. And Ryan, Joe, Bill, we sure appreciate the opportunity to join your program. You guys do a great job, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thanks, and Merry Christmas to you as well. Again, that's Marty Vierheller, the head coach of the Parkersburg Catholic girls basketball team. We're going to step aside and take a break. We'll have much more as we're just rolling right along. This is the fastest 3 hours in radio. I saved that last week. This because I wasn't here for all 3 hours, but this weekend really is. We'll have much more basketball Friday night in West Virginia when we return from break 3 here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
If you love basketball, then there's only one place to be on Friday nights after the game. It's Basketball Friday night in West Virginia. It's the Daily Hoops Roundup, part of BasketballNight.com. Every day, we recap the day's scores just for you on all teams in West Virginia. We send followers an email at 8 a.m. with the Daily Hoops Roundup. You can also visit BasketballNight.com and just check the day's scores. We'd like you to become part of the score reporting crew during the week, too. Send us your team scores, and there's many ways you can do that. You can do it by Twitter, text, email, and we'll make that part of our daily Hoops Roundup and part of the show. We want you to become part of the Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia family. On Twitter, follow us at Hoops_Roundup, at Hoops_Roundup. You can email us at scores@basketballnight.com, scores@basketballnight.com. Send a text with scores to 304-249-4924, 304-249-4924. Check it out at basketballnight.com. It's the Daily Hoops Roundup. Later tonight, you'll hear from the first Standout Athlete of the Week. If you have someone remarkable on your team or an athlete that made an outstanding play, you can nominate your team's players to become the Basketball Friday Night Standout Athlete of the Week. Each week, we consider nominees based on leadership, performance on the court, academic performance, involvement in the community, and volunteer work.
This is high school basketball's home for the Mountain State. Basketball Friday night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
We welcome you back to Basketball Friday night in West Virginia. Happy to have you along with us here as we get set to close out hour number 1. We are with you until midnight all across the Fast Break Sports Network throughout the great state of West Virginia. And guys, we'll talk with we got a guest here in a moment that I'm looking forward to speaking to. We'll talk with the head coach of the Work County boys team, Chase Mills, in just a moment. I want to go back a little bit to the interview we just had with Marty Vierheller, the head coach of Parkersburg Catholic. Girls basketball, the Crusaderettes went on a 66-0 run in a game earlier this week. I saw them get some flack for that. And Joe, I kind of think that's unfair to cast stones from afar.
You know, if you're on a roll, you know, it's all about the win and losses. I mean, yeah, I can see it on, you know, some points. If I was on the other end of the battle, yeah, let's call off the dogs, as the old saying goes. But, you know, on the other hand, you know, if your team's performing well and, you know, it's early in the season, you're trying to get some continuity and learn each other's style and, you know, what kind of moves they're going to make and where to pass the ball to. So I can understand that, you know, their side of it as well.
And Bill, this takes us right back into our poll question from last week about instituting a running clock.
Running clock.
We didn't even set a score difference because that's not the important thing. It's just, should we look at it? And that is our poll question that's still up right now on basketballnight.com. But that's a prime example why we asked that question.
Yeah, and we've actually looked at other things too. Is running clock because of the application to what's done in football is I mean there are just also been some applications discussed where you get to a certain point of the game at a certain point margin, it's like, let's just shut it down. and that's another idea. And we still got time to get some thoughts from our fans on that, because it is a possibility, because we are seeing, at least early this season, some of these really lopsided games, and they're tough to watch. They got to be tough, obviously, to play in.
I still think I would prefer the clock to run. That way you can get some more kids a little extra playing time instead of playing to a sudden stop. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, it's right. That gives your younger players that experience they need to step up, later in the season or next year or whenever their, time will come.
Work County boys head coach Chase Mills, kind enough to join us on a day that was an interesting day in Work County, because they didn't have school because of widespread illness within the county. Coach Mills, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Apparently you're doing better than many of the children in Work County.
Yeah, they closed the schools down here today, and luckily our basketball players did not. We didn't have any illness, so guess we avoided it. Luckily,
your team is 3-1 on the season, an impressive win tonight, taking down Ravenswood at home.
Yeah, anytime you're playing a Mick Price coach team, it's not going to be easy, and this was a big victory for us. We had not beat them in a long time, and I think the guys were, really looking forward to this game after getting a couple wins to start the year, and we got it done. It was a hard-fought win, but I was proud of our kids.
So have your kids been able to completely avoid this bug, or has it just been just a minimal effect on your team?
Yeah, very minimal. We had, I think, 2 kids that missed, and we just told them, stay away and stay home and get better and come back. But luckily, like I said, it's not hit us too bad.
I can just see them with vitamin C drops on the bench right now just to try to avoid getting anything.
Really?
I mean,
they
suck that OJ down.
We sanitize the gym, and they sanitize the whole school with all that stuff. So it's hopefully prepared for Monday, and hopefully we won't have a whole lot of that going on anymore.
Coach, you're 2-1, off to a fairly good start. And like you said, you had a big game there in Ravenswood. But just looking down the road, you've got the Word Holiday tournament coming up, and then after the first of the year, you get right back into the things with Ritchie County, Wood County. Are you pleased with the schedule and your team to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we do play, in my opinion, in the toughest league or least division in the state as far as single A basketball goes. I mean, it's Parkersburg Catholic, Williamstown, Ravenswood, St. Mary's, Tyler Consolidated, us and Ritchie, and I think that especially at the top, it's every year it's tough, But I like our schedule. I think we've got it to where our basketball team is much more competitive than we have been the last 2 years, and we're looking forward to playing in the conference again. But we know that there's no easy game, and you got to bring your best each night.
Well, Coach, as you're building a program, and this is philosophical speech here, but when you're building a program and you're making your schedule, you've already got tough games built into the LKC, but when you're looking to fill the other games, how do you find the balance between finding teams that you're going to be competitive with? I'm talking about while you're in the building process. You're very good right now, but finding teams that you're just competitive with versus playing the absolute best teams when maybe you're not ready for that type of caliber of opponent.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't quite go and say that we're really good yet, but I think we're getting better. But I think that when you build that schedule, we obviously look at teams that are in our area, or in our that are local to us and at our level and things of that nature, I guess. But we play Gilmer County and Calhoun County as well, but that are on the other side of the division that we don't necessarily have to play, but we play them because they're old rivals and things like that. But I think we look more teams that are fairly close that are on the same level as us when we're looking at those other games, and also we want to, as we keep improving, we'll want to continue to schedule tougher teams outside that maybe even statewide eventually.
Well, yeah, that is true. But as you mentioned, you are blessed with the fact that there are so many good single-A schools around it. Obviously, you're playing in the LKC, which is a outstanding conference, and so you're not having to travel hither and yon to try to find opposition. You got a lot of folks just right in your backyard that you compete with and can get good games with.
Yeah, that's right. So, it's a good area of the state for basketball, and I think it just keeps improving. So, we've got to do everything we can at our school to try to keep up with the rest. And like I said, it's in the LKC West, especially. There's no easy game.
Work County Tigers are 3-1 and will take on Hannon on Monday. Coach Chase Mills, thanks so much for joining us, and we certainly hope that you were able to avoid the bug.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, and that's a very nice win for them tonight, guys, over Ravenswood, a team that is a perennial state tournament team, sometimes a state championship caliber team.
Right.
Mick Price does a fantastic job there, as we all know, one of the great spokespeople for basketball in the state of West Virginia.
Absolutely.
And that was a very nice win for Work County. I think he kind of was understating it there. It's been a long time.
You could hear the excitement in his voice.
As he should. I mean,
exactly.
Again, that's a fantastic win.
That's like beating, if you were back in the early 70s, knocking off John Wooden or Adolph Rupp. That's the way Mick Price is, and Mick Price is seen around the state of West Virginia as one of the legendary coaches in the state, still out there doing it.
All right.
And again, Work County gets the win tonight over Ravenswood. So fantastic start to the season for them. And sometimes I'm telling you that hopefully they are able to contain whatever has stricken the area around Elizabeth, West Virginia there and around Work County and hold it there. But guys, we've seen this for several years now. When the illness goes through, man, it can have a number on your basketball teams and just your day-to-day life for a week at a time.
Yeah, it can wipe your team out. I mean, if somebody on the team contracts it, bring it to practice, man, the next day, you may not have anybody show up for practice or a game.
And it's really tough in smaller schools too.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's real tough. It's amazing because I remember when we were growing up, we being me, that. I don't remember when you all grew up. I wasn't around then. No, I'm just playing. But you went to practice if you could physically go.
All right.
And now it's like, no, you should probably stay home.
Right. Coaches have a different perspective of it.
Yeah, it's just part of the evolution, I guess you could say, of the way things are handled within school and within sport. Always a good time, though, to talk about how that is. Hey, 1 hour in the books already. Wow. 2 more to go. When we come back, Matt Miller, WRNR, will talk about Martinsburg and Washington boys game. We'll also talk to our resident referee, Bo Anderson, sometime. And then from WVOW in Logan, James Barker had the Logan Scott boys game. So we'll talk with him. All of that and much more as we move toward hour 2 of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
For scores online, all of them in West Virginia, visit basketballnight.com. Special thanks tonight to all of our affiliates. You can listen on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State, including our newest affiliates tonight, We Rock West Virginia Louder, 105 KQV, WKQV Cowan, 105.5 FM, and heard in Braxton County on 106.9 FM. 103.7 FM, Jack FM, WQWV in Fisher, the Valley's Watchdog, 1600 AM, WKKX Wheeling, 1370 AM, WVLY Moundsville. Jackson County's home for Southern Gospel, Singing News Radio 92.5 FM, WTHM, LP Ravenswood, Ripley. Knights Radio 91.5 FM, WRSG in Middleburn. Talk Radio, WRNR. Martinsburg, 740 AM, 106.5 FM. Classic Hits, 106. WHFI Linside, 106.7 FM. 95 The Sports Fox, WBES Charleston, 950 AM. The Voice of the Coalfields, 101.9 FM and 1290 AM. WVLW in Logan, Light Rock 93R, WRRR St. Mary's, 93.9 FM. The Ticket, 102.3 FM, WMTD in Hinton, the greatest oldies of all time, 98.5 FM and 101.5 FM, WQAZLP, Edmond, Beckley. Tune for You, Yap Radio, 101.7 FM, WYAPLP Clay, and Marshall University's flagship station, 88.1 FM, WMUL in Huntington.
Welcome back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. To join tonight's program, call 855-78-HOOPS. That's 855-784-6677. Follow us on Twitter @hoops_roundup for all the scores all the time. And visit basketballnight.com for a comprehensive look at schedules and standings for every team in the state. Stay tuned. Another hour of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia begins right now.
And we welcome you back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville. Happy to have you along as we begin our second hour of the program. We are with you until midnight all across the Fast Break Sports Network. And, guys, we'll get into another scoreboard in just a moment, but our call queue is already starting to back up again. And we certainly appreciate getting to talk to all the good folks out there who cover games on a nightly basis, and especially talk about what they've seen when we get the opportunity to speak with them on Friday nights. And it's always a pleasure to kind of get to talk with the people on the front lines, be it media people who cover it, be it coaches, be it players.
Or resident referees.
Yeah, he can wait. But we'll get him in a minute. But wow. I have a good question for Bo. I think it's a good question. Anyway, I ran across this. It happened a few years ago, but a fascinating thing happened in an Arizona basketball game. And I'll just leave it at that. In a high school game in Arizona.
I can see his little brain just, clicking away.
It involved Winslow. No one was standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. But still, we'll talk about that much more later on in this hour. Right now, I want to go to Matt Miller, WRNR. Martinsburg picked up a 90-29 victory tonight over the Washington Patriots in boys basketball. And Matt, the Bulldogs, all they do is win.
Oh, they've certainly gotten off to a nice start to the season with a win last night at Loudoun Valley, and then backing that up with a win tonight at home against Washington.
The Bulldogs, one of those schools that are fortunate enough to have the problem of a couple of athletes perhaps playing football and being delayed and getting to come out for basketball, but at this point seems to be going. The Bulldogs seem to be going full strength.
Yeah, they certainly are, and those guys are all back. They've had their practices and have had an opportunity to, be on the basketball court without having any delay. The biggest delay in talking with head coach Dave Rogers is that, the guys that aren't on the football team, kind of get in the gym for a lot longer. They begin to develop a little bit of a rhythm, and then it's, getting the guys from the football team then into that mix and figuring out some of those rotations. Grant Harmon had 21 points in yesterday's win against Loudoun Valley. Didn't need to score as much tonight, and he finished with 4 points as Anthony Smith, who went for 12 last night, just a sophomore. The guard led the way tonight with 18 points. And so in these first two games, it's kind of been some different guys that have stepped up. Teddy Marshall's been very solid. He scored 7 last night, 8 tonight. Another one of those football guys. And, Anthony Smith, another one of those football guys as well.
Interesting schedule for Martinsburg from the standpoint of, game yesterday, game tonight. And based on the schedule that we have, and by all means, help us if we're wrong here, we have them going 2 weeks without a basketball game. But isn't there a trip in there?
Yeah, that's it. There is a trip in there. I know talking with Coach Rogers. before last night's game that, he was really hoping that they could have played Loudoun Valley at a different time, but it seemed to be the only time they could fit that game in, so they went back-to-back to open the season. Next up for Martinsburg, they're actually headed to Hilton Head, South Carolina. There's an 8-team tournament there at Hilton Head High School called the Seahawk Holiday Classic. There'll be teams from 6 different states that will be participating, and Martinsburg will play next Friday, Saturday, and actually on Sunday before then coming home on Christmas Eve.
Well, that should be a lot of fun. It's been a great time to be a Martinsburg Bulldog fan.
Yeah, and then they follow that up with the Skip Fowler tournament. So, they pretty much finish out their 2018 part of the schedule in tournaments.
Yes, they'll be hosting that tournament the 28th and 29th, and so they played back-to-back here, get a little bit of time off, then 3 straight, a little bit of time off, and then back-to-back games again.
Matt Miller, WRNR in Martinsburg. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.
All right, and another one of the good people in radio. I was able to do some work for WRNR over the summer, and Matt and company, first class, very helpful, and enjoyed getting to call Little League Baseball.
Yeah.
Okay.
For
State Little League tournament.
Yep, for Jefferson County Little League.
Yep.
All right.
It was here in the Huntington area, so able to do that and get the games back on WRNR. That's right. Pay me, I'll work for it. No, I'm joking. But no, they are fantastic to work with too. We'll get our scoreboard in just a moment. I want to go right back to the phone lines, though. James Barker, WVOW, and Logan defeats Scott tonight, and the Wildcats could not ask for a much better start to the season.
Yeah, they're playing really good right now, Ryan, and happy holidays to you guys. Hope everything's going very well in the Friday night studio. But, Logan right now just firing on all cylinders, and really the defense has been the story to start the season. I know that David Early's going to get a lot of publicity, and now with Drew Hatfield in the mix as well, they get a lot of publicity, but it's really been Chucky Felder that has jump-started these first 3 games for the Wildcats on the defensive side of the ball, and it's been fun to watch them score the basketball, much like the Wildcats of old.
Yeah, tonight it looked like Logan. I got to watch quite a bit of the game, but it looked like Logan just took Scout's game plan right out of the mix.
Yeah, and you're right, Joe. They did, and it started with, like I said, on the defensive end, but really the offensive glass for the Wildcats was an important part of the game plan as well, as you had Noah Cook getting a lot of offensive rebounds as a guard, and then Peter No on the inside, the 6'11" senior for the Wildcats, had a lot of rebounds tonight as he fought with Hunter Atkins all night long in the paint. So Logan playing really good basketball right now, and then Zach Green must have been a really good boy for Santa Claus this year because he found a great present with Drew Hatfield underneath his Christmas tree.
And Logan with a 78-48 victory tonight, a 30-point win over Scott, who was undefeated coming into this game. And the old moniker around Logan that goes back to basically the beginning of time when it comes to basketball, the running Wildcats.
Right.
They kind of got away from that a year ago. They were a very slow and methodical team with the ball. But this year, again, defense turning into offense is what creates high-scoring games. And James, certainly seems like they've put more effort. I won't say more effort, but they're able to use their defense to get easy buckets.
Yeah, and they have a plethora of athletes at their disposal. Chucky Felder, a great football player, but he has played with so much more confidence this season, not only on the defensive side of the ball, but the offensive side of the ball as well. And really, when you watch them defensively, they are jumping passing lanes. They are trapping anywhere on the court. And right now, Zach Green really has his team believing in that defensive style of play. And, they're averaging almost 85 points a game right now in their first 3 games of the season. Their schedule will get a little bit tougher as they move on into the later December and January. But, right now, Logan playing really, really well. David Early finishing 32 points tonight, and that's unofficial because sometimes I can't even count that high. So David Early just phenomenal tonight.
James, no rest for the weary, because next week, right back, another big Cardinal Conference showdown with Mingo Central over at Mingo Central up on the mountain there. And although they don't have Jeremy Dillon anymore, and some folks might think they're a little bit down, still a good rival game. I mean, Logan's got a lot of rival games, just like with Chapmanville and Man, but this is another one that's turning into a good rivalry.
Yeah, and this is a team that Logan has struggled with in the recent years. Obviously, maybe the talent not the same at Mingo Central because of that, but at the same time, this is a game that a lot of people always circle on their calendar in Logan, and it'll be interesting to see the homecoming of sorts for Drew Hatfield, who, as you guys well know, was enrolled there just a month ago.
Yeah, played football there on a Saturday and enrolled at Logan on
Monday.
Monday was
Tuesday.
Veterans Day.
Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. And certainly have seen a whole lot of that around the region, across the state as well. James Barker, WVOW Radio. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, guys, thank you. Have a happy holidays, and we'll talk to you here soon.
Thanks, you too, as well. Always a pleasure to catch up with James. And we'll get to our resident referee in a few moments, but right now it's time for another Marshall University Sports Journalism BasketballNight.com scoreboard update. I love it when I trickle. Joe, you got the girls' scores.
Take a look at some scores from across the state in a final from the Rogers Oil Tournament. Pocahontas County goes 3-0 as they knock off Webster County 68-15. It was Ritchie County, the Lady Rebels over the Lady Hawks of South Harrison 46-36. And a final, Charleston Catholic, the Lady Irish knocked off Greater Beckley Christian 35-22. It was North Marion, the Lady Huskies, over East Fairmont, 66-41. And a game that went to overtime, Philip Barber over Grafton, 57-56. Musselman knocked off Hedgesville tonight, 51-46. It was Kaiser over the Lady Falcons of Frankfort, 63-54. The Lady Wildcats of Logan also victorious today as they knocked off the Lady Tulsa Rebels, 42-37. Petersburg, the Vikings over the Union Tigers, 60-12. And another game in that Ioga girls tournament, it was Buchanan Upshur, the Lady Buccaneers, over Bridgeport, 54-50. Summers County, the Lady Bobcats, over Greenbrier West, 73-28. That was in the Rogers Oil Tournament. And it was the Indian Creek, Ohio Redskins knocking off Oak Glen today by a score of 60-44. Ryan?
Checking the boys' scores throughout the state of West Virginia tonight, and there are a lot of them, so let's jump right in. It was East Fairmont defeating Kaiser tonight, 65-61. James Monroe at the half with a 54-10 lead over Narrows, Virginia. Hedgesville is 3-0. The Eagles defeat Heritage Academy, Maryland, 64-53. Bluefield is 2-0 after a 73-28 victory over Mount View. East Hardy defeats Moorfield tonight in the Battle of Hardy County. That's right, they do it every week. Boys or girls on Friday. Gotta love that. East Hardy gets the win tonight, 72-59. First win of the season for the Cougars. Also, in boys high school basketball tonight, in the IOGA boys consolation game for the single A division, Nicholas County, who is double A, defeated Tucker County 82-74. Fantastic high scoring game there. Also tonight, Nitro defeats Herbert Hoover 53-28. Wheeling Park opens its season with a 60-53 victory over Martins Ferry, Ohio. The Purple Riders, one of the more interesting nicknames throughout the region. Also, Greenbrier West, the Cavaliers defeat Charleston Catholic tonight, 69-57. Webster County is 2-0. The Highlanders defeat Clay County, 95-47. It was Greenbrier East picking up a 56-54 home win. Big win for Bimbo Cole's program over Beckley tonight. Very big win for the Spartans in Fairleigh. University defeats John Marshall tonight, 78-38. The Hawks are 2-0. Also, it was Logan 78, Scott 48, Wildcats 3-0. Midland Trail opens its season with a 63-58 victory over Richwood. It was Oak Hill going to 2-0 with a 52-42 victory over Westside. Winfield wins a squeaker First win of the season for the Generals, and it comes at the expense of county rival Polka. The Generals get the win tonight, 51-49. It was Princeton defeating Pikeview 80-45. Work County defeats Ravenswood 52-46. The Irish of Huntington St. Joe defeat Sherman 70-39. It was South Charleston picking up a 99-85 victory over Spring Valley. Wheeling Central defeats Magnolia 92-38. Williamstown picks up a 69-53 victory over Ritchie County. Blue Ridge Academy, Virginia defeats Parkersburg South 72-68. The Oak Glen Golden Bears are undefeated at 3-0 with a 77-49 victory over Lindsley. And Martinsburg defeats Washington 90-29. That is a check of your Marshall University Sports Journalism BasketballNight.com scoreboard.
That South Charleston Spring Valley game, man, that must have been some run and gun offense.
It was, but again, we really don't know a lot about Spring Valley because, again, they have guys that are football guys that still have not played yet. Probably get their chance next week. Woodrow Wilson comes to Spring Valley on Tuesday night, and that's where you might see a full team. Big win tonight for Greenbrier East and for Bimbo Coles. Woodrow has owned that series in recent years, and so, I mean, that one stands out to me so far tonight on the boys' side.
Certainly one of the games that stuck out to all of us, and that was a big win for the Spartans. And, of course, with a new coach after Jim Justice relinquished the
he
boys
probably
team.
Really didn't step down. He just stepped aside.
Yeah, and you better believe that the governor's probably very still involved with that basketball team. If he's not coaching it, he's keeping up very, very close tabs on it. So big win tonight, though, for the Spartans over the governor's alma mater, Woodrow Wilson. How about that? We're going to step aside, take a break. When we come back, our resident referee, Bo Anderson, may or may not join us. He's on hold. We'll see. This is Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
This is high school basketball's voice in the Mountain State. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Careers in sports journalism are growing with the expansion of cable networks, the rise of sports-centered online platforms, and ever-popular local coverage. Get in the game. Your passion, curiosity, charisma, and a Marshall University sports journalism degree will equip you with the combination for success. You'll be the eyes, ears, and life of the game when you learn the art of sports storytelling while covering the Thundering Herd on our Huntington campus. Go behind player stats and game scores. Learn to report compelling stories. Become proficient in breaking news across multiple media platforms. Find out how sports and media impact our society. Marshall University's W. Page Pitt School of Journalism and Mass Communications is ready and eager to help you start your sports journalism career. Learn more at marshall.edu/SOJMC. Thanks for joining us. Many platforms that you can watch and listen to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Of course, we're on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State. Just click on our affiliates page for the station nearest you. You can also watch us in high-definition video on YouTube, Facebook Live, Periscope. On cable, we're on Suddenlink's Network West Virginia statewide in Huntington, Comcast Channel 25, and also Armstrong Digital Channel 204. And we want you to send us your picks from your games and your fans.
Celebrating high school basketball around the Mountain State. You're listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
We welcome you back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, all across the Fast Break Sports Network. Happy to have you along on this December 14th, 2018. It's 10:19 on the program. Let's go back to the phones. Our resident referee, Bo Anderson, has been waiting for long enough. Bo Anderson, welcome to the program.
Well, you know, I'm listening to it as I come down through there, and I keep hearing these little digs like, well, maybe we'll get him in an hour, or maybe we'll get him in 20 minutes, or we might get him before the show's over. So I just kind of patiently sit back and enjoy myself.
I think this is probably the earliest he's ever been on, isn't it?
I tell you what, you guys got me in good tonight. I believe it is the earliest I've been on, and I'm actually getting on before I eat and then get on, but actually I haven't got to a place to eat yet, so made it better.
So you're on the road and had a game tonight, I presume.
Yes, I was in Ohio tonight. I had Megs at Alexander tonight. That was where I was at tonight in Alexander, Ohio.
Ironically, I'll see the Megs girls basketball team tomorrow. They play at Wayne tomorrow night. Small little world.
Yes, actually one of the people from Meg said that they had to travel to Wayne tomorrow night. So yep, that's exactly right.
Well, looking forward to that. All right, before I bring the question to you of something that happened earlier this week in Arizona, I just want to ask you in advance, anything that you've seen in the past week that was maybe just a little bit different, or something that you see very rarely that the fan manual doesn't cover?
No, not really anything odd yet. Just pretty much the basic stuff. I did have the guy ask me a question that he had saw a game, so I'll just kind of cover this. We'll talk about a play here, talk about a kid getting fouled and going to the foul line to shoot. So let's say Team A is on the foul line to shoot, and Team B is not in the lower blocks. Like they're supposed to have the two first lane space. They're supposed to be, that's the only requirement is those two to be there. So I had to ask him what the situation was. Well, the players were over there huddling with their coach. All right, so we had three ways to look at this. One is, in that scenario, we would order them to get two people in on the blocks, because that is the only requirement besides the shooter. And if they did not do so, then we would have a technical foul for delay. Now, the second thing that could have happened, I said, well, there's three things that could have happened, so I have to know the scenario. If they were huddling inside the lane of two or more players, then we would have a delay of game warning. And then the next time they did any of the four delays that I've talked about before, it would be a technical foul. And then the last scenario of that would be after a timeout, then you use what we call the resumption of play procedure, where you would give the ball to the shooter, and the shooter misses. He gets another shot because those two are not on the bottom blocks like they're supposed to be. And if they delay any further during that timeout interval, then that's a technical foul. So there was three scenarios there. I had to know which one, because there's three situations you could have, and that's the rule. And the other thing I'll mention to you on a side note, not about rules, but I want to mention this last program, and I know it's run out of time a little bit. Our association, River Cities, inducted four guys into our first Hall of Fame class. We started a Hall of Fame class for our officials, and I would like to mention the four names who got inducted. One is still officiating. It's Bobby Sparks. Then we had Raymond and Larry Jordan, both got inducted. They're both still living, and they don't officiate anymore. And then we had one deceased that we put in there, and that was Claude Miller. And I know Billy, I'm sure, would know all those guys. And, Ryan, you might have known, I know you know Bobby, but you might have known a few. But I just wanted to give a, congratulations on our first class.
That's a great class there. And, of course, Bobby is still a outstanding official, works state tournaments quite a bit, and The Jordan brothers are legendary in the Huntington area as far as high school basketball. And, of course, Claude Miller was, a lot of people know Claude from his years as the head football coach at the old Huntington High. But he was also an outstanding basketball official.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to mention those names and also want to send out a condolence that I didn't get to. We had a former official pass away about a week and a half ago who has been retired for several years, but Billy, you'll know who he is, and Ryan might, a guy by the name of Larry Arthur. So I want to send my condolences on behalf of our association to Larry Arthur, who passed away a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember when I was growing up, I'd see him do several games when he'd roll through Wayne on Tuesdays and Friday nights when basketball was much more regimented on his days of the week. But moving back, okay, here's a question for you. And I don't think that there's necessarily anything, I don't know that this is covered in a rule book per se. This is just kind of a common sense thing. But Flagstaff High School and Winslow High School were playing in the Pepsi Holiday Tournament Championship game on Saturday in Flagstaff, Arizona. And they realized with 4 seconds left in the first half that these two outstanding girls basketball teams have been using a boys' ball the entire half. What do you do? And again, look, we laugh, but once they move the girls' season to be with the boys' season, there's a lot of overlap. You have to keep an eye on things.
Well, absolutely, Ryan, and I will go ahead and add to that. Probably about 10 years ago, Ryan, they played the first half of a boys' state tournament in Ohio with the girls' basketball. Now, my first question was in the state tournament is, why is there a girls' basketball there to start with? Because they are separate leagues. But, I don't know. The officials should have caught it. On the girls' basketballs, they do have the dimensions of 28.5. Now, they don't on the boys' ball, but on the girls' ball they do. But they end up getting the boys' ball, just like you would have to do there. Hopefully somebody's got a boys' basketball that they can play with, and we would have to just move on from there. But, it's amazing that especially the guys, usually having bigger hands will not recognize that they can grip that ball a little bit better.
Yeah, it's just that was one of those I was like, I'm surprised I haven't seen that happen a little bit more almost.
Well, it didn't happen in our game, but a couple years ago there was a girls' game played before the boys' game, and they left the girls' game and then whenever one of my partners was going over to check the ball and stuff, he said, wait a minute, this ain't the right basketball, and we got to find the boys' ball. They had actually left the girls' ball at the scores table from the game that happened. So we have to watch it when they have those double headers, and one group's working the girls' game and the other group's working a boys' game. So we have to be careful on that because we can start the game with the wrong ball, but we hope not to. We hope we get a feel for that beforehand.
You'd think one of the players would catch it. You're out there on the floor. It would have to feel a little bit different.
Well, especially, I can understand it when there's double headers, Joe, but especially in the state tournament, which it did happen in Ohio. They played the whole first half, and I was thinking, man, them guys have got to feel like they're a little bit, their hands has grown a little bit or something.
That's just, it's one of those things that you maybe wouldn't think about, but it can happen. And, now that we say that it will happen in West Virginia within like a week, just somewhere. And probably no one will admit to it. It'll be a game that's not covered by the paper, so we'll never know about it. But
somebody heard us talking about to sneak one in.
Not my game. That's as long as it's not my game. That's all that matters.
Bo Anderson, our resident referee, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for having a good sense of humor to play along with us. That's why we get you on the show early tonight. But next week we don't know.
And go get some supper.
Hey, guys, again, and I say this every year, and I just told the coach tonight about a call that one of my partners made. It didn't like. I said, look, pencils have erasers. If they didn't, then we would be perfect. So, I enjoy it, and I want everybody to feel that basketball officials are human beings, and we enjoy stuff just like anybody else does. And, I enjoy the show, and you guys are great, and I appreciate it. I'll talk to you next Friday night, I'm sure.
Thanks so much. That's our resident referee, Bo Anderson. Always glad to hear from Bo, and always appreciative of him to take his time and to help us learn about some of the finer things.
He's always got a different perspective on the game.
Yeah.
When you think you've covered them all.
An official with a different perspective on the game. Who'd have thought it? No, I'm just playing. Look, there is a shortage of officials throughout the state, and that's been a problem that's been kind of growing. It's a growing problem. We've gotten further and further along now. There are more people. I mean, I hate to say it. You go to these games, and the officials tend to be older people, and they need to retire at some point, and there's no one to fill in for them, so they're still having to work.
Yeah, Bo's talked about that, the fact that they need young guys to step up, start working in your youth league, start working JV games in high school, and work your way up the ladder because we need you.
And the reason a lot of these guys and ladies are hesitant to move up is because of the fans. You know, they get heckled during games.
Too much abuse.
Exactly. You know, that's where they need to blow the whistle and call a little T, a little technical.
Treat them with respect.
Exactly.
And almost 99.999% of the time, they'll treat you the way you treat them.
Exactly.
So just, I don't know, just kind of a random little aside there. Yeah. Let's step aside and take a break. When we come back, West McKinney, WAEY, had the Princeton win tonight over Pikeview. We'll also have Eric Little, WVVV in Parkersburg. Patriots lose a tough game in boys basketball tonight at Parkersburg South. We'll talk with both of those guys when we come back on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
If you love basketball, then there's only one place to be on Friday nights after the game. It's Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. High school basketball action in West Virginia is heating up as teams focus on a trip to the state championship in Charleston. Stay up to date with your local teams and their progress all season long with Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia for 3 hours every Friday night from 9 to midnight. Listen online or on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State. Hear sports writers, broadcasters, coaches, players, and your calls recapping your team's game. Visit basketballnight.com for more details on how you can become part of the show. Follow us on Twitter @hoops_roundup, @hoops_roundup. Thanks to everyone tonight that's called, sent text, tweets, and emails. We appreciate you being part of the show and helping us cover all high school basketball in West Virginia. Join us on the phone tonight and share your team's game. Call toll-free 855-784-6677, 855-784-6677. Follow us on Twitter @hoops_roundup, @hoops_roundup. Text the show 304-249-4924, 304-249-4924. Go to our website, check out the scoreboard, find out how you can connect with the show tonight at basketballnight.com. A shout out to some of our newest followers on Twitter tonight, including Taylor Spratt, SC Athletics, Southeastern Ohio Preps, Mary Beth Idleton, Alan Robinson, and Andy Lett. They're all part of the Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia family. Join us tonight.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
Halfway through the Week 2 edition of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. It's 10:33 on the program. Ryan Epling alongside Bill Cornwell and Joe Linville. Happy to have you with us as always. We've got a lot to get in here in a short time, so let's jump right back to the phone lines. West McKinney, WAEY in Princeton, had the call of the Princeton-Pikeview boys basketball game tonight. And Wes, the Tigers pick up their second win of the season. Third win of the season. Sorry, I'm not sure. Yeah, third win.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Princeton really made it look easy tonight, guys. They jumped out, on AA Pikeview, who in reality they are struggling a little bit this year, still trying to rebuild down here in Gardner. Princeton jumps out 26-4 on the Panthers in the first quarter. They are up by 24 at halftime, 43-19. Now that's I can't do math. Anyway, they're up 43-19 at halftime, and then they cruise to that 35-point win of 80-45. And obviously it's good. It's good for Princeton in more than one way because it's Princeton's holiday tournament down here in Mercer County this weekend. So you at least want to make sure you get to your own championship game each year, and Princeton has done that. And every year I've been doing this, which makes year number 6 now. So Tigers going to get a chance tomorrow night to put a feather in their cap. They're going to get Bluefield, who rolled by Mountain View easily tonight, won by almost the same exact margin that Princeton did. So a couple of heavyweights tomorrow night down here in the Princeton Christmas tournament. And, I hope Princeton notices that Greenbrier East went on the road, Greenbrier East won at home tonight over Woodrow Wilson. So a big statement win in the section being made by Greenbrier East tonight. So hopefully Princeton can do the same against Bluefield tomorrow night and get that statement win.
Battle of Southern Mercer County tomorrow with Princeton and Bluefield, and that's always a fun game. There's if you've been through there, if you haven't been through there, Princeton and Bluefield are about 8 miles apart on 4-lane highway of Route 460. Easy trip into there, and that should be a fantastic environment tomorrow.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, it was a packed house tonight for the Bluefield Mountain View game, which preceded Princeton and Pikeview, and then almost an equally as big crowd for the late game there before it got out of hand late. But I'm expecting the gym to be packed to capacity tomorrow night. So if you're listening to the show, you're in Southern West Virginia here, and you don't have anything to do tomorrow night. It's going to be about a 7:45 tip-off. 20 minutes after the first game ends, it'll be Princeton and Bluefield, and like you said, Ryan, a great rivalry down here. Bluefield not quite at full strength yet. They had 2 or 3 guys still coming back from their football team that went to the state championship game, of course, and then they're also missing a couple of guys to injury. So Bluefield not quite at full strength, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot to them. They got the Sean Martin kid that has those football offers out on the table. He was available tonight for Bluefield. They got a sharpshooter by the name of Braden Cruz who had a few 3-pointers tonight against Mountain View. So Princeton's going to get tested tomorrow night, and what's going to be interesting to see is early here in the season, Princeton's been wanting to get up and down the floor a lot. They forced 25 turnovers against Pikeview tonight, but I think Princeton's going to have to watch themselves a little bit tomorrow night because Bluefield is just or probably more athletic than Princeton, so Tigers can't get caught in the trap of trying to run up and down with the Beavers tomorrow night.
Should be an excellent ball game. Wes McKinney, go enjoy that game tomorrow night.
Will do. And guys, all I did, I'm just trying to get on base for Eric Little to knock me in here. So,
well, we're going to throw a wrench in that because we're going to throw a pinch hitter in between. How's that?
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
All right. Wes McKinney, WAEY in Princeton. Thanks so much, and certainly look forward to talking to Wes again next week. And he teed it up for Eric, and unfortunately, Eric's going to have to wait one more call. We have to get a call in real quick. Luke Creasy, who is on his way back to the studio tonight, where he will have our standout athlete of the week profile in our next hour. Currently still working his way back. He doesn't get the chopper like I did.
I know. He has to drive.
He covered the Tulsa-Logan girls game tonight. Great ball game tonight. Logan had just a little bit too much for the Rebels tonight.
Yeah, Ryan, you're right. Both teams were perfect coming into the contest, and really a very physical matchup between the Rebels and the Lady Wildcats, and it came down to the final few seconds. There were a couple different times there in the second half where Logan had built up a double-digit lead, led by as many as 10. But the Rebels kept fighting back. Kylie Pollinger hit a couple of threes within the final minute of the game to pull it within one possession. It was 40-37 with about 20 seconds left. And that's when freshman for the Logan Wildcats, Peyton Ilberton, a freshman for Logan, knocked in a pair of free throws. She was 4 for 5 in that fourth quarter and that's the only points that Logan scored. No field goals made from the floor for Logan, but they pull out with the win, 42-37 over the Tulsa Lady Rebels, and hand the Rebels the first loss of the year, and the Wildcats stay perfect.
Tulsa now 5-1 on the season. Luke, thanks so much. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Thank you. See you guys soon.
All right, and big thanks to Luke pulling double duty for us tonight. We'll do the scoreboard in just a minute. Let's just go right back to the phone line to Eric Little. And unfortunately, we interrupted the natural flow of Wes McKinney into Eric Little on the program. And as soon as we can, there he is, Eric Little, WVVV in Parkersburg. Eric, welcome to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Hey, thanks, guys. And I can drive in runs with 2 outs just as easy as I can with 1 out. It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, you can put somebody between Wes and I in, and I'll knock them home. It's all right.
Hey, it's just more RBI opportunities for you. Hey, good ball game tonight. Parkersburg South comes up a little bit short against. Just a second here. I had it. It went right through the Blue Ridge Academy, Virginia. Yes, and that game was a tight game, and Parkersburg South came up a little bit short, but at the same time, that's a good game for the Patriots.
Yeah, and to kind of go back to what Wes said about the Princeton Holiday Tournament, Parkersburg South's mentality going into their own holiday tournament is actually 180-degree opposite. They don't, not saying that other teams and other tournaments bring in necessarily 3 chumps and, stick a trophy in their trophy case, because you'd obviously like to win your own tournament. But at the same time, South does a good job to bring in 3 really good teams. And if they win their tournament, so be it. If they don't win, then at least they played a couple really good teams. And one of those tonight in the former Blue Ridge School, they were down 10 in the first half before Seth Fallon's personal 9-0 run. He knocked down 3 threes in that 9-0 run. He would hit 4 threes in the game and finish with a team-best 18 points. But 10 was the biggest lead the Blue Ridge got. South fell behind a couple times in the second half by as many as 6, but there really were a lot of positives in this game. Fallon found Malachi Sylvia underneath the basket. Sylvia, a junior, who really came on off the bench for South in the last 6 to 8 games of last season. Played some valuable minutes for them off the bench, and he's going to be a key contributor for this team this season. They only returned 2 starters in Fallon and Braden Mooney, who'll be somewhat limited because of a football injury. Actually hurt his MCL in South's playoff game this year in football. So he's somewhat limited, though he did start and play tonight. So Fallon shouldering the load. Malachi Sylvia looks very capable. But it's a team that held tough with a team that I'm not sure a lot of people, or at least Mike Fallon didn't think a lot of people thought that they would hang tough with. Fallon told me in the post-game show, people were saying we'd lose this one by 25 or 30, and I'm not sure who he was referring to necessarily, but they didn't do anything of the sort tonight. They held in there against a team that was bigger than them. They had a definite size advantage. So South has more size this year than they've had in past years, and they really didn't out-physical the Patriots either. The Patriots lacked some on the offensive glass, but it wasn't as a result of physicality, for sure.
So Parkersburg South falls in that tournament game. And, again, just, I like that when they host that tournament, they, like you said, it's not just that they bring in 3 good opponents. They don't care if they don't win the tournament from a standpoint of, hey, we'll play whomever on the first game instead of trying to pick a game for themselves. I like that, and that doesn't surprise me because Parkersburg South is one of the programs in the state that does not back down. They like to challenge themselves as much as possible, and it's helped them through in the postseason before, but they fall tonight. But a chance to get right back at it tomorrow. And Eric, thanks so much for joining us and putting up with our shenanigans as well.
Always glad to be here. And again, there's only to kind of cap what you thought, what you said there. There's only one tournament Parkersburg South cares to win, and that's the one that's held at the Charleston Civic Center in March. So if you don't put a trophy,
Exactly.
if you don't put a trophy case or a trophy in the trophy case in December, it's not a big loss. As you know, it's about what you need to do and the journey that you need to take to get where you need to be. Always a pleasure to be with you guys, and finish strong this evening, fellas.
Hey, thanks so much. That's Eric Little, WVVV in Parkersburg. One of my favorite stations to call out.
Except for
WRRR. Where are you,
which
Greg,
is his sister station.
Yeah, just all connected there. But I definitely can vouch for that. They don't try to get an easy win. They try to go ahead and challenge themselves at every opportunity. And when you've got a team that can and a program that can, you appreciate that they do.
And we've talked about it, being early in the season, you try to get that confidence build up because, that'll make or break your season right there alone.
Sure will. And, speaking of confidence, we're going to step aside and take a break and kind of regather here.
Catch our breath
for a second. We have a scoreboard update that will come up when we come back as we're just moving right along here on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
For scores online, all of them in West Virginia, visit basketballnight.com. Many places that you can listen and watch Basketball Friday Night. We're on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State. Just click on our affiliates page for the station nearest you. You can watch our high-definition video on YouTube. We're also on Facebook Live and Periscope. And on cable, we're on Sudlink's Network West Virginia statewide and the Huntington region on Comcast Channel 25, Armstrong Cable Digital Channel 204. Hey, and we want you to send in your game pictures so we can feature them in our video stream. Send your pics to us on Twitter at @hoops_roundup, at @hoops_roundup. You can send them to us on Facebook, and you can also send them to us by email, scores@basketballnight.com, scores@basketballnight.com. Give us your best pics of your team and their fans, and become a part of basketballnight.com. Join us tonight and vote in this week's poll. You've got till 11:45 tonight, and then we'll share the voting results with you. This week's question, should there be a running clock mercy rule in high school basketball? Vote yes or no. Go to basketballnight.com to vote in this week's poll. You'll see the poll on the right-hand side of the page. You've got till 11:45 tonight to vote, and we'll share the results at the end of the show this evening. Basketball Friday Night, West Virginia's high school basketball voice. A big shout out to the folks just joining us on Twitter, SC Athletics, Taylor Spratt, also Jennifer Farley, Trey Wiseman, and Ryan Forbes. They are all part of the Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia family joining us tonight.
This is high school basketball's home for the Mountain State. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
10:46 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Joe Linville with you. Bill Cornwell is in studio as well, joining us now on the program. He made it.
I did.
Pretty quick.
In the time we spoke with Eric Little, Luke Creasy made it all the way from Glen Hayes. Okay, no, he was almost here.
I was well on my way.
Yeah, but now in studio with us tonight, back as our special correspondent tonight, and our first standout athlete of the week of this new season. And it's R.J. Klein from Sherman High School.
Yeah, just a junior there for Sherman, but I was talking with him earlier today. That's a very young Sherman roster. They graduated 4 last year. And so it's been a youthful start to the season. They lost again tonight to Huntington St. Joe, but a very youthful start and a lot of promise for him.
And we are now a little bit less than 2 weeks away from Christmas, and RJ is involved with making sure that some of the children who may be less fortunate in Boone County and in the Seth area in particular get something for Christmas.
Well, it's something he's been involved with for a long time, the Secret Santa organization there in that area. His dad is actually on the board for that program, and he's gotten involved with that, and he's actually gotten the chance a couple times to actually see the faces of some of the people receiving those presents, able to give those out. It's a big thing down there. Being able to give back is certainly something that he loves to do in that community. It's very tight-knit.
And the road from Seth, West Virginia to Morgantown, West Virginia is kind of windy, at least until you get onto the turnpike.
First couple miles anyway.
Yeah, it feels like you're driving in a circle almost, and you're not getting anywhere. But those country roads, helped link him to one of his mentors that he met at a basketball camp.
Yeah, Beetle Bolden. They talk almost daily. They met at a skills camp up there in Morgantown at West Virginia. And it's not uncommon for some of these younger athletes to go to some of these skills camps, but he's very mature in the way he handles that, and he realizes the value of making some of those personal connections to learn from people that are at the college level, that have gone beyond the college level as well. So he's smart for his age, and he's got it all figured out right now.
Luke Creasy takes a closer look at our standout athlete of the week, junior R.J. Klein of Sherman High School.
The Sherman Tide boys basketball team graduated 4 seniors after last year, in turn losing a wealth of experience and leaving the team with a roster full of youth that has been put through the fire in its first 2 games of the season. Sherman junior R.J. Klein is now making the most of his chance to lead the team by learning more about himself and the game by those who have played it at the highest level. His ability to discern wisdom from mentors and apply it to his craft is what makes R.J. Klein this week's Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia Standout Athlete of the Week.
Last year, I was just playing my role and playing both varsity and JV. It was just kind of weird. Now it feels like I'm a senior, but I'm still a junior, so I got a whole nother year. But I'm just trying to be a leader on this team.
After those 4 seniors graduated, there was a giant hole in the Tide's roster, waiting to be filled by a wave of rising upperclassmen. With no seniors on the roster, though, Klein has taken it upon himself to improve his game by attending basketball camps up and down the East Coast. Now, it's nothing new for Klein, who has attended these types of skill camps since he was in 8th grade, but along the way, he has made invaluable connections by attending camps at West Virginia University and yearly stops at both Concord and the University of North Carolina.
North Carolina brings a lot of top competition player-wise, campers, and I just like playing against them. If you ain't playing against the best, what's the point of playing? And it's just fun playing against them to see like what I need to do or see where I'm at.
As a Tar Heel fan, it's no surprise that he says his favorite was the UNC camp. He was able to take instruction from the legendary head coach Roy Williams and learn from both current and former players while attending the camp, making personal connections with camp coaches.
Whatever they tell me, I take from what they're saying, and I listen to them. Going back to North Carolina, Marcus Ginyard, he used to play for UNC, and he was one of the coaches my first year, and me and him still text all the time. I just talk about, like, how my season's going and the ups and the downs, and he just tells me, like, just to keep my head on straight, and he knows what I mean to the team, so I just take what he says into consideration. And
Klein's father, Robbie, says that he has seen his son's passion for the game translate into improvement through attending the different skill camps and thinks that just might be what turns the tide for the Sherman boys basketball team.
It's strange. I mean, I think down the road we're going to be a really decent team, but I just think now it's a growing pain. You just got to get through it.
After an 0-2 start to the year, Sherman's youth might be showing, but Klein said his team is constantly reminded by Coach Dave Henderson that every preseason goal they had is still well within reach. For Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, I'm Special Correspondent Luke Creasy.
Greatly appreciate our special correspondent joining us tonight and able to turn that for us on a quick turn and celebrating the end of the semester. And greatly appreciate that as well. And guys, we're going to hold the scoreboard till the top of the hour. Yeah. But right now we've got. We'll talk back through that interview in just a minute. But let's right now go back to the phones. The Riverview Raiders girls basketball team starting out with a 4-2 mark on the season. This is a ball club that's been pretty good for a while now, and then they kind of had a little bit of a step back for a year or so, but kind of seem to be getting their footing back underneath them. Gary Justice is the head coach of the Raiders. He joins us now on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. And Coach, welcome back to the program.
Hey guys, it's nice to be here. I have to correct you that we're 5-1, but 4-2 is acceptable, I guess.
I'll have to get on the guys in the back. We got to straighten that out. But
that's all right. Yeah, we had a score malfunction on the snow day a few days ago. So, yeah, that had been reported by a few places or whatever.
So
that's no big deal.
All right, so just so I can make sure our guys get it right here, it was a win over Hurley, Virginia, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and 54-36.
Yep.
All right, we'll get that straightened out.
Something like that, yeah.
We'll get that straightened out. A win tonight over Scott or today, I should say, over Scott. I think that was this morning, right?
Early.
Yeah. We have a 9:00 game in the Hoops Classic. Again, we were fortunate enough to be back in again this year, and again, we don't mind playing those early games because if you get Charleston, you're going to have to play, a 9:30 game sometime. So, yeah, that's a good experience to try and get something like that down under your belt for you for future references.
A win before breakfast on a Friday is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah. Well, the breakfast is always good.
And your ball club back at it next week, a challenging game with the George Washington Patriots.
Yeah, and again, I was calling to kind of talk about that tournament a little bit again. But Stephen New was sponsoring again. But for 2 days, we've got 6 games. The first night at 5 o'clock, we have West Side versus Bend. Then we have Mount View versus Wesley Christian, Kentucky, at the 6:30 game, and then the nightcap for the first game will be us versus George Washington. And then when we flip around on Saturday, again, that we will have Man versus Mount View in the 5:30 game, us and Wesley Christian at 6:30, and then we'll cap off with West Side playing George Washington in the 8 o'clock game that last day.
Should be 2 full days of good basketball.
Yeah, we with us and West Side again, we think we got 2 of the top teams in our area. Man is young, but again, they've made some progress as far as playing well. Their record's not showing up too well right now, but again, that they're playing better basketball. And then Jamie down at GW, that they're top 5 AAA team. So to get them to come down to McDowell County was a nice treat, and that the people should be excited to see them come down and play in a place that they've never played before, and versus 2 pretty good AA teams. And with Wesley Christian, I don't know anything about them. Their boys team I know is one of these top national teams that's got 7, 8 D1 kids on it. So the girls, I don't know, they may be terrible or they might be the next coming of the Lakers, but we'll find out.
Hey, just toss it up and see what happens, right?
Yeah. It's practice before February, so again, the better things you can play, the better off you'll be, hopefully.
There you go. And Coach, we're running short on time here. We certainly greatly appreciate you calling in, and I gotta say, I hope to get to see Riverview this year, some way, somehow, somewhere.
Well, that sounds good. We'll be happy to have you guys anytime you want to show up. We'll find you a GPS and a road map to get you Bradshaw.
Hey, always enjoyed trips into McDowell County over the years, and had made a trip to Yeager, which is not there anymore, and played a basketball game there when I was a sophomore in high school, and the gym's not there. But anyway, I'm bringing up bad memories now for me. But nonetheless, Coach Justice, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Garrick Justice, head coach of the Riverview Raiders girls basketball team. We're going to step aside and take a break. 2 hours are in the books, guys.
Rolling right along.
Fastest 3 hours in radio. We'll have a scoreboard update when we come back. We'll also, a little bit later on, speak to our standout athlete of the week. And we'll have cause time. We're trying to create a little more cause time than normal.
Exactly.
That's all when Hour 3 of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia begins after this on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
For scores online, all of them in West Virginia, visit basketballnight.com. Special thanks tonight to our radio affiliates and all affiliates statewide. You can listen on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State, including 105 KQV, WKQV Cowan 105.5 FM, and heard in Braxton County on 106.9 FM, 103.7 FM, Jack FM, WQWV in Fisher. The Valley's Watchdog, 1600 AM WKKX Wheeling, 1370 AM WVLY Moundsville. Jackson County's home for Southern Gospel. Singing News Radio, 92.5 FM WTHMLP Ravenswood Ripley. Knights Radio, 91.5 FM WRSG Middleburn. Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg, 740 AM 106.5 FM. Classic Hits 106 WHFI Linside, 106.7 FM. 95 The Sports Fox, WBES Charleston, 950 AM. The Voice of the Coalfields, 101.9 FM and 1290 AM WVOW in Logan. Light Rock 93R WRRR St. Mary's, 93.9 FM. The Ticket, 102.3 FM WMTD in Hinton. The greatest oldies of all time, 98.5 FM and 101.5 FM WQAZLP, Edmond, Beckley. Tuned for You Radio, Yap Radio, 101.7 FM WYAPLP Clay, 104.5 FM WASPLP Huntington, 101.1 FM WVWP LP in Wayne, and 90.7 FM WFGH Fort Gay, and Marshall University's flagship station, The Cutting Edge, 88.1 FM WMUL in Huntington.
Welcome back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. To join tonight's program, call 855-78-HOOPS. That's 855-784-6677. Follow us on Twitter @hoops_roundup for all the scores all the time. And visit basketballnight.com for a comprehensive look at schedules and standings for every team in the state. Stay tuned. Another hour of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia begins right now.
How the time flies. 11 o'clock on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Joe Linville, Bill Cornwell. Happy to have you with us tonight as we cover high school basketball throughout the great state of West Virginia. I know we told you we were going to get you a scoreboard before the break. We weren't able to, but right now we are. So let's get a check of our Marshall University Sports Journalism BasketballNight.com scoreboard. Handle the girls' scores, then we'll turn it over to Bill Cornwell for the boys' scores on this go-around. Girls' scores tonight from across West Virginia. Moorfield defeats Pendleton County by a final score of 65-28 in the Petersburg Tip-Off Classic. Also in the West Virginia State Fellowship of Christian Athletes event there, Riverview goes to 5-1 with a 49-32 victory over Scott. Just talked with head coach Gary Justice. You can find that in our archives. Also, St. Joe defeats Wyoming East 80-53. Not necessarily surprised at the victor. Am surprised at the margin in that one tonight. South Charleston defeats Capital 74-38. Wheeling Park picks up a 44-37 victory over Bellaire, Ohio. Pocahontas County gets a win in the Rogers Oil Tournament over Webster County, 68-15 the final in that one. Also, girls high school basketball tonight. Ritchie County defeats South Harrison 46-36. It was Charleston Catholic over Greater Beckley Christian 35-22. North Marion picks up a 66-41 victory over East Fairmont. Philip Barber defeats Grafton in a barn burner 57-56 in overtime. The Colts get the home win. Musselman defeats Hedgesville 51-46. It was Kaiser over Frankfort in the Battle of Mineral County 63-54 the final in that one. Logan defeats Tulsa 42-37. The Wildcats get the win at Rebel Arena. First loss of the season for Tulsa. Logan is still undefeated. Petersburg defeats Union 60-12. Buchanan Upshur picks up a 54-50 victory over Bridgeport. That was in the IOGA girls tournament as Buchanan Upshur comes from behind. They were down by 12 in that ball game, and they get the win tonight over Bridgeport. Notre Dame defeats Doddridge County 39-35. Summers County picks up a 73-28 victory over Greenbrier West. And the Indian Creek, Ohio Redskins from Wintersville defeat Oak Glen 60-44.
We have most of our finals in tonight, starting off with Bluefield getting a win over Mountain View 73-28. It was Cameron beating Bealsville, Ohio 73-59. Moorfield lost to East Hardy 72-59. No in-county rivalries go at it there. River Hannibal of Ohio beats Payton City 63-33. It was Musselman falling to Woodgrove, Virginia by a score of 64-52. Tucker County beats Nicholas County by a score of 80, or actually Nicholas County won that game 82-74. Herbert Hoover falls to Nitro. Final score there 53-28. It was Wheeling Park over Martins Ferry, Ohio. Final score there was Wheeling Park 60-53, a win over Martins Ferry. Morgantown beats Buchanan Upshur tonight, big time, 91-40. It was Greenbrier West over Charleston Catholic, 69-57. Webster County tonight over Clay County, 95-47. Woodrow Wilson loses to Greenbrier East. Big win for Bimbo Cole Spartans, 56-54. John Marshall falls to University Skyhawks, 78-38. Lincoln County beats Man, the score we just got, 80-60. Lincoln County's Panthers get that W. Logan over Scott, 78-48. Midland Trail beat Richwood, 63-58. Oak Hill beats Westside, 52-42. Close win in Putnam County. Winfield 51, Polka 49. Pikeview falls to Princeton 80-45. It was Worth County 52, Ravenswood 46. Cabell Midland now 3-0 on the year. The Knights beat Riverside tonight 76-58. Sherman falls to Huntington St. Joe 70-39. It was South Charleston over Spring Valley 99-85. Wheeling Central over Magnolia 92-38. Williamstown beat Ritchie County 69-53. Blue Ridge Academy of Virginia winner over Parkersburg South 72-68. It was Petersburg over North Marion 71-69. Oak Glen beats Lindsley 77-49. And finally, Martinsburg, huge win over Washington 90-29.
Lots of scores there. Still looking for several as well. If you did not hear your score and you know it, tweet it to us at @hoops_roundup. Would certainly like to be able to get all of them on the air tonight. Again, we've got about 54 more minutes to get them all in on the program. Again, you can go to basketballnight.com and sign up for the daily email alerts with all the scores. You just don't see the AP aggregate scores like you used to in the newspaper. So it's kind of a little bit of a throwback there.
It's after 5 o'clock. Their offices are probably closed.
Exactly. And it was a big win today for the Greenbrier West Cavaliers. They defeated Charleston Catholic 69-57 in boys action. Noah Midkiff had 34 points to lead the Cavaliers in that game. Assistant coach Jared Robertson joins us now. And coach, a very nice win for your basketball team tonight.
Thanks, guys. It was great atmosphere. We talked last week about how it was going to be a Midkiff versus Williams battle, and it proved to be that with a packed gym in Charmco. Really proud of our fans for coming out tonight and supporting us. But just a hard-fought game and two good basketball teams.
2-0 start to the season for the Cavaliers. And was this a year that maybe – I won't say too far back, but maybe a couple of years ago you looked at it as a chance to have a really, really good basketball team?
Well, we've kind of looked at this. We've got 5 seniors that are playing that all have played since they were sophomores, and a few of them played since they were freshmen. 2 years ago, I think we won 13 games, and we're really excited for last year. And we won 14 games and had a good year, but our kids really felt like they were disappointed and thought we should have finished better. We lost in the sectionals, didn't make it to regionals, and they've really put a goal that we're going to advance further. We got a long way to go, but their effort has been fabulous the first few weeks of the season. So hopefully we can keep that up and get better.
You talked about the atmosphere in Charmco tonight, and I think that especially the single A, and in your case, a school that's been fringe double A over the past 15 or 20 years or so. You get about that size of a community. Again, I know it's a little bit of a rural school, but you get that size of a community together and kind of build toward a special season like the opportunity that your team has to have one this year. And there's really nothing like that.
Yeah, it's just been a buzz around school all week. We haven't played since last Friday. We were supposed to play Midland Trail earlier this week, and their football team advanced deep in the playoffs, and they kind of bumped their season back a little bit. So we had all week to work on this game, and the buzz for basketball has been here all week. Our cheerleaders put a lot of effort into signs and getting people here, and I really appreciate them. And our community just really came out tonight. It was just, Charleston Catholic brought several people, and we had a lot of neutral fans and several area coaches that weren't playing in the stands. So hopefully it was a good night for everybody, but it was a great game.
Coach, next week, no rest for the worry because you play a couple of teams that you're pretty familiar with, local rivals in Shady Spring and Meadowbridge.
Yeah, Shady Spring is really good. I'd planned to go watch them Tuesday, and when the snowstorm hit down here, we didn't get their game got canceled, and I haven't seen them, but my scouting department that I always talk about helps me. I had a couple buddies go watch them against Westside, so we're going to be ready for them, but they're really good. It's going to be a big challenge for us, and it was great in the locker room. Our kids were happy that they won because this was a big game for us, but they were already talking about things we have to do better to have a chance on Tuesday.
Coach,
and then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The big rival waits on us on Friday, but that's the Meadowbridge is 15 minutes down the road, and Coach Gladwell does a super job, and sneaking up to Glenville to try and catch them tomorrow and see how they look.
Coach is talking about your senior-laden team. You've only got 5 seniors on the roster and they're all on the floor. How, as far as depth-wise, how does your team look?
Well, we play 8 kids, 7 a lot, and then an 8th plays some. We got those 5 seniors, and then Chase Hagee is a junior that started most of the year last year for us as a sophomore. And then Caden Pike is a sophomore that was kind of our JV go-to guy last year that we got in varsity a little bit as the season went along. And he's just a great young player for us. And then people that know Greenbrier West history, we have Lawson Vaughn, that's another sophomore. His dad, Kelly, was a big star for us back in the 80s. And those 3 give us a lot of depth to go with our 5 seniors. And having 8 kids that can play is a luxury. Tonight we got in some foul trouble, and we could just keep rolling because we can sit guys when we need to.
Coach, and you've got some height on that team as well, 6'2", 6'3", 6'3", 6'8", 6'9".
Ooh. Yeah, when you have the Odell twins inside, that gives you height to start with. But, yeah, around them we have a lot of kids that have some height too, and we try and make it a goal every night to dominate the rebounding because of our size. And, you look at our guards, Midkiff and Griffiths are only about 5'9", 5'10", but both of them can dunk a basketball easy, and they can both jump. And it gives us an advantage some nights. But, people don't just let you rebound. Our kids know they have to work hard at it. And so far, we've really done that. Hopefully we can continue.
Do you get to travel on a bus with a little bit extra leg room?
To be honest, when we can, we try to take cars because we don't like to ride a bus. But it's kind of tough on those tall kids.
Absolutely. Jared Robertson, assistant coach for Greenbrier West boys basketball team, 2-0 on the season. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch up with you again later on in the season.
All right, Coach. I want to mention this too. Everybody knows Robbie Williams is a fantastic player for Charleston Catholic. He scored his 1,000th point tonight. During the game, we got to stop the game and present him the game ball and announce it. His dad was here. Everybody knows Coach Williams from West Virginia Tech, and I know he's probably disappointed that he lost, but he's a very good player, and just wanted to mention that too. Congrats to him and his family for that accomplishment.
Absolutely, a noteworthy achievement to get to 1,000 points in high school basketball, and a noteworthy achievement to beat a team as good as what Charleston Catholic has been over the course of the last 20 years or so. Jared Robertson, assistant coach of Greenbrier West. We're going to step aside and take a break. When we come back, we will speak with R.J. Klein, our standout athlete of the week. That's when Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia continues here on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Every Friday night from 9 to midnight, we're the home for high school basketball in the Mountain State. This is Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Don't forget to join us tonight and vote in this week's poll. You've got till 11:45 tonight, and then we'll share the voting results with you. This week's question, should there be a running clock mercy rule in high school basketball? Go online, vote yes or no tonight. Go to basketballnight.com, and you can see it on the right-hand side of the page. You've got till 11:45 tonight to vote. And, of course, we'll share the results tonight. Basketball Friday Night, West Virginia's high school basketball voice. Many places to listen and watch Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Of course, we're on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State. Just go to our affiliates page at basketballnight.com, and you can find the station nearest you. You can also watch our high-definition video on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, on Suddenlink Network West Virginia, statewide in the Huntington region on Comcast Channel 25, Armstrong Digital Channel 204. If you're watching right now, you're going to see lots and lots of pictures that have been sent in to us. We want you to send your team pics, game pics, fan pics to us on Twitter. At @hoops_roundup, at @hoops_roundup. You can also send them to us on Facebook, and you can email them to scores@basketballnight.com. Scores@basketballnight.com. Give us your best picks of your team and their fans. Become a part of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
Celebrating high school basketball around the Mountain State. You're listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
11:15 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia as we roll through week 2 of the program. Week 2 out of 15. So
we're just getting started.
That's right. We're just we're still getting warmed up. Haven't even got to the game yet necessarily. We're in mid-season form though. That's what I'm going to tell myself. Anyway, if you're listening at home, don't laugh too hard at that. But so happy to have you along on what is a nice Friday night. A little bit rainy throughout much of West Virginia, at least through the western part of it. That rain's coming up out of the south, but at least it's not snow.
I don't know. I looked on Cause's Twitter a minute ago. He had a map up there of rain projected in inches. You know, I thought it was a snowfall prediction there at first, but it's several inches expected of rain up in that part of the state.
You never like to see a rainfall map with inches.
Yeah.
You don't like it measured in inches. Measured in tenths, that's okay, but
inches?
No, like 4 to 5. No, that's a lot of water. But one of the things that we've got to do with this program over the past 4 years, and this is the 6th year for the program, but something we picked up on over the past 4 years, is highlighting a standout athlete of the week every week. If you want to nominate somebody, and we'll tell you how to do this in a moment, but I'll tell you now, and then we'll tell you then too. Go to basketballnight.com. Just follow the instructions there. And once you nominate someone, they stay in the pool, so you don't have to nominate them every week. It's not we don't start fresh. Minutes. We don't start fresh every week. You know, we can keep them in the pool for consideration. So definitely something you can do there to nominate a standout athlete from your neck of the woods, so to speak. And it gives us an opportunity to get to talk to these kids and in many instances their families as well, and get to learn more about the athletes who, if you go to a basketball game on any night of the week, you just see them out on the court playing for 32 minutes, but you don't know their story necessarily, and everyone has a story. And we enjoy bringing those to you. So nominate standout athletes of the week at basketballnight.com. This week's standout athlete of the week is a junior from Sherman High School in Southwest Virginia in Boone County. He is R.J. Klein. He joins us now on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. And R.J., congratulations on being this season's first Standout Athlete of the Week.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your role with this Sherman basketball team. It's a team from a standpoint of not a lot of seniors. As a junior, you're kind of in a leadership role right now.
Yeah, just being a role player last year as a sophomore, not really playing a lot of minutes, but also playing. It's kind of weird being one of the main vocal points of the team this year. And I'm a junior, but I got to act like a senior, so it's just kind of something new to me. And just today we played our third game, so it's still getting used to it.
Yeah, I've seen this young man play several games, and RJ, the intensity, the concentration you put into a game is it really stands out. I mean, you can tell when you're on the floor, you are focused on what you're doing.
Yeah, I just whenever I step in between them lines, I just try to put all my focus into the game and just try to win and do what's best for my team to get the win.
And your basketball club is it's a tough start to the season. It's a long season, though. Tell me a little bit about this particular Sherman Tide basketball team.
It's different. We don't got a lot of older guys on the team. Our starting five consists of 4 juniors and 1 freshman that played junior high last year. It's just different from last year's team where all 5 starters were 4 of them were seniors, and then Chris Abbott, who's starting this year, played last year for an injured senior. It's just a different team than what people are used to seeing.
And RJ, something that many of our standout athletes of the week over the past couple of years have talked about is time management, because they end up being involved in a lot of activities. Something that caught my eye is the Secret Santa organization that you're involved with. I know your dad's involved with that as well. Tell me about what you're able to do with that and how you're able to balance schoolwork and then some of the extra things that you do outside of basketball.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not going to lie. I like doing Secret Santa. It's fun. I have a lot of friends like Tony Harshbarger and just all kinds, like Sam Burns. I got all kinds of friends that are in the organization. I like helping out. Like anything I can do to help anybody out, I'll do it. And I just like doing it because I get to help kids that don't get a Christmas if it wasn't for Secret Santa, and I just like doing that for them.
RJ Klein, our standout athlete of the week, junior with the Sherman High School boys basketball team. Congratulations, and RJ, we wish you the best of luck throughout the course of this, your junior season.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and
A well-mannered young man as well.
Say another excellent selection. The committee here does a fantastic job.
He always, when I see him in a game, he always comes over. Even while he was warming up against Scott the other night, he come over and spoke to me. Just, he only had a second, but at least he acknowledged it, and went right back into the warm-up. So, fine young man.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a. Go ahead.
I was going to say we've already got a lot more nominations, but keep them coming because we want to have a big pile, is to say, to select from. A big pool, yes.
Yes. And again, go to basketballnight.com to submit your standout athlete of the week nominations. You can do that whenever because we've got 13 more of them to hand out.
And it's open 24/7.
Absolutely. And again, you don't have to do it every week because it carries over week to week in terms of people who have been nominated before. Great basketball game tonight. In a girls' game between Buchanan Upshur and Bridgeport. Bridgeport had a 12-point lead at one point, but Buchanan Upshur, it was kind of in a reset this year with a new coach and a lot of new faces after the graduation of a fantastic group that went through last year and was a AAA runner-up. Buchanan Upshur comes back and gets the win. Dylan Goday of the Buccaneer Sports Network joins us now on the program. And Dylan, winning never gets old.
No, it doesn't. And that group of girls out there tonight definitely used to winning, and now the seniors in their 4th year. So definitely showed that perseverance tonight to be able to come away with that win after being down by 12 in the third quarter. It looked a little gloomy there, but they're able to fight back and get the win.
So do you think the battles that those girls have been involved in over the past 2 and 3 years help them to kind of settle it down and come back and get that win tonight?
For sure. With the seniors tonight that really stepped up was Allie Robinson, 2 straight games in a row against Parkersburg last night and against Bridgeport here tonight. 20 points in both of those games for Allie. And then in the fourth quarter, Leanne Bennett, coming into the game, not scoring a lot of points, taking over really the point guard role for the team. She comes in the fourth quarter with 12 points, gets a steal late to seal the win against Bridgeport. And that was really kind of waking up moment for her, like you're mentioning there, using that experience that she's had in the years past. Her sister last year, now playing college basketball up in Pennsylvania, Division II basketball, kind of learning off of that, really came together tonight for her to get that performance, get that steal to seal the win. Was a big come-from-behind victory. That's something with a team with not your leading score, was losing leading scorers from a year ago, and Hannah McClung and Lauren Bennett. Definitely had different players had to step up and learn how to score, and I think Leanne tonight, with her ability to shoot the three-point shot, 4 threes in the fourth quarter, definitely stepped up and was able to do that.
All right. Excellent win, and again, Buchanan Upshur playing through what we'll affectionately call a reset, but still a lot of good basketball players in that program and on that team. They pick up the win tonight over Bridgeport by a final of 54-50, and they'll take on North Marion next week. And I mean, they're just excellent basketball teams up in there. And also lost to Parkersburg yesterday, but have been in some very tight games. A 6-point win over Lincoln, a 2-point loss to Frankfurt. So, like I said, this is a Buchanan Upshur team that's maybe not at the level it had been, but it's still at a pretty high level. Okay, now that I've got all the formalities out of the way, Dylan, I went to Kaiser back in November. First was November 9th is when I made the trip. And that took me through Buchanan. And I was on Route 48, the Corridor H, just a little bit east of Buchanan, and crossed the Buchanan River over the Sheriff Fred Godet Bridge. And that made me wonder, how is Fred Godet related to you?
As my late grandfather, he was a sheriff, the county commissioner in my town. I did a bit of everything as well, and he actually played football for a year at Marshall the year before the plane crash as well. So
wow.
Connection there with you guys being at Marshall. He was on the Marshall football team the year before the plane crash, so wasn't involved with that. But definitely a cool little connection there, and definitely special. The We Are Marshall movie and all Marshall things definitely special to my family with him having that connection to the team. John Young, that was on the Marshall plane crash, was college roommates with my grandfather, and they were high school teammates at Buchanan Upshur back when Buchanan Upshur was winning state titles in football.
Excellent tie-in there, and I saw that, Brett. I thought I'll have to ask Dylan about that on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, and I just figured there weren't too many Godets out there.
Yeah, definitely not in Buchanan. We're the only family, but cool as well with the girls team last year. My grandfather's football teams are in the Hall of Fame for our school, and I'm sure the girls team from last year is a shoe-in for that Hall of Fame as well. So that'll be cool for my sisters to have kind of write their name in the Godet history along with my grandfather.
Absolutely. Fantastic stuff. Dylan Godet of the Buccaneer Sports Network, thanks so much for joining us, and good win tonight for the Lady Bucks.
Thank you guys for having me, like always.
All right, and greatly appreciate getting to talk to him. And guys, sometimes you just read a sign by the road and you find a connection you didn't even know about.
I mean, we got even a little deeper that we learned that his grandfather played at Marshall. I guess he played for Perry Moss. Would have been 1969.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was the team. Yeah, there were some. That was the team right before the 1970 team that was in the plane crash, and obviously a lot of those guys who played on that team either were still on the team in 70, unfortunately, and perished, or knew them. So you mentioned that tie-in. Just it's a small state sometimes. Taryn Malone is a Magnolia High School student and a sports journalist in the making. He was at the Magnolia Wheeling Central boys game, and also the girls from Magnolia are 4-0. He's here to talk about the Blue Eagles. And Taryn, even though it was a rough time tonight for the boys basketball team, they were up against a fantastic basketball team.
Yes, the boys basketball team faced some hardships tonight with the beginning of Wheeling Central's season opener. The boys was hanging in there for a while, and Central Catholic at the end of the first quarter was leading 20-10, and Central Catholic just led by about 20 near halftime, and then just dominated the ball game overall in the second half.
A little bit of a different start, though, for the Blue Eagles girls team.
Yes, the girls this season has started out their season 4-0, and they take on rival River Hannibal tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. The girls is having a great start to their season, win over Payton City 59-41, Linville Cadets 44-39, St. Mary's 52-40, and Bellsville at Thursday night 39-28.
So a good start for the Blue Eagles as well. And Taryn, I know there's a rough loss tonight for the boys team, but looking forward, obviously this is very much early in the season, and things tend to kind of even out a little bit more as the season goes along.
Yes, Coach Dave Tallman mentioned to me a couple weeks ago that this is his youngest basketball team that he's had together in the years he's been coaching at Magnolia. But he also noted that there is great leadership with his team, and he said that there's still a lot of season to go.
Taryn Malone, Magnolia High School sports journalist. Thanks so much for joining us, Taryn.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and we got to step aside and take a break. When we come back, we'll talk with Dave Morrison. He had the Westside Oak Hill boys basketball game. We'll talk with Super Dave when we come back on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
For scores online, all of them in West Virginia, visit basketballnight.com. You've got a few minutes left. Join us in this week's poll question. Should there be a running clock mercy rule in high school basketball? Vote yes or no. And tonight at 11:45, we'll let you know the results. Go to basketballnight.com and you'll see the poll question on the right-hand side of the page. Don't forget the Daily Hoops Roundup, which is part of basketballnight.com. Every day we recap the day's scores just for you on all the teams in West Virginia. We'll send followers an email at 8 a.m. with a link to the Daily Hoops Roundup. You can also visit basketballnight.com and you can find out all of the day's scores. And we want you to become part of our score reporting crew during the week too. Send us your team scores by Twitter, text, or email, and we'll make that part of our Daily Hoops Roundup. We want you to become part of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. On Twitter, we're at @Hoops_Roundup, @Hoops_Roundup. You can email scores to scores@basketballnight.com, scores@basketballnight.com. You can also send us a text. You can text scores to 304-249-4924, 304-249-4924. Check it out. It's all at basketballnight.com, the Daily Hoops Roundup. Shout out to some of our newest Twitter followers tonight: SC Athletics, Taylor Spratt, Hunter Gurrell, George Cameron, and Ioga Classic.
Stay up to date on your favorite teams. Check out basketballnight.com. Now, back to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia with Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
It's 11:32 on this Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Ryan Epling, Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville. Happy to have you with us. Just a half hour left in Episode 2, Season 6 of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia, the 75th episode overall. Wow.
That's hard to believe.
We've done this 75 times now. My goodness.
It's going to be amazing next year when we get to 100. Then we're going to have a party.
Big party.
That's right, streamers and stuff.
I don't know that we could party any more than what we're about to with the food selection that's out right now.
The hospitality room has been moved in.
Yes, we're going to struggle through this last 30 minutes because we're distracted by all the food that's in the studio here.
A lot of sugar in the room,
Yeah. You know who's not distracted by food right now? Well, actually, he might be.
He may be rear back chomping down.
Dave Morrison calling in to talk with us about the Westside Oak Hill boys game. And yes, he gets his own intro now. Super Dave, welcome to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia.
That's some pretty impressive music I've got there.
I mean, that's a downright regal intro.
I mean,
that really is regal. I feel like the Bud Light King.
He gets John Williams music. That's impressive.
Is that a sponsor? Am I allowed to say that?
No.
Just keep moving on.
We'll just keep right on moving along. But
Hilly.
Oak Hill West Side. We'll go with that. Oak Hill West Side. How about that? Oak Hill and West Side boys basketball. Those two programs have gone at it for. Oak Hill's been somewhat bouncing between AA and AAA at times, but still that's a good Region 3 rivalry, and another chapter of that played out tonight. I know West Side's a little bit down, and Oak Hill's got a very good basketball team, and Oak Hill able to get the win tonight, 52-42. And Dave, I'll just ask you: Are these Red Devils for real?
Well, if you based it on the first three quarters of tonight, you probably have to say no. But quite frankly, I think Westside and even their Oak Hill coach Benitez Jackson admitted as much. Westside outplayed them simply for three quarters tonight. It was, I believe, tied at 38-38 after three quarters. Oak Hill put up. The score was 68-56. Oak Hill put up 30 points in the fourth quarter and kind of pull away and win by 12. But, I mean, really, for three quarters, it was just like one of the great rivalry games over the past between these two schools. And if you ask me if Oak Hill was for real for the first three quarters, I would say no. But after that fourth quarter, when they really got rolling and ran off, I think it was 15-3 run, really got things started and put up 30 points. Based on that, I would have to say yes. Really a great effort by Westside tonight to stay in that game for three quarters, because when you look back, Westside had lost to number 8 Shady Spring by 42, lost to number 1 Chapmanville by 39. And going into this game, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be much the same, and it really wasn't, and the credit to Westside.
Westside's a young team. Talk about a team that's in a reset. That's a ball club that's a traditional program, and their schedule still reflects it, but they don't necessarily have the team to play at that level night in, night out right now, at least. And I think that's a ball club that's going to have a deceiving record by the end of the year, because their record's going. There's a good chance that Westside's boys are going to have a record that is almost eye-openingly not typical Westside. But I think the team may end up being better.
It could very well be losing. It very well could be a losing record at the end of the season. But they certainly aren't. You would have to say their schedule is one of the best in AA right now. Have played 8-1-3 in their first three games. So I think it levels off a little here, where they'll play teams similar to them. And Sean Jenkins said as much before the season started. Look, we're gonna win some games we probably shouldn't, and it almost looked like they were going to do that tonight. Like I said, tied after 3, and we're going to lose some games that maybe we should win. And that's reflective of having a team with not a lot of experience. But tonight they did have one thing they didn't have in the other two games. They had some more scoring. Hunter Walters was the only player back. They lost 7 of their top 8 players. Hunter Walters, that one guy, back. Tonight, sophomore Daniel Reed, had 16 points all in the fourth quarter. Jace Calusi had 12 points. So they did find some maybe a second or third option for on down the road. They didn't have that in the first two games.
Dave, going back to Oak Hill, Coach Jackson's going to find out a lot about his club next week because they've got a game on Tuesday night against Nicholas County, and then boom, 3 nights later, back-to-back trips to Charleston to play GW and Capital.
Yeah, and I think they, because of what they have back, if you look at their lineup, at times tonight they had the same starting lineup on the floor that they had most of last season. Andrew Work didn't make their best player, obviously. Andrew Work he didn't start because he was hurt and missed some practice. Didn't play in the Riverside game earlier in the week on Tuesday, and had 14 points tonight. Limited action again. He did not make the start, but he did have a nice second half. He scored most of his 14 in that second half. I think 11 of them during the run. But yeah, if you look at that, you play a George Washington and Capital, they certainly can't play like they did tonight. And I wouldn't think they would overlook a section rival. But this is an opportunity, really, for Andrew Work, one of the better players, I think, in AA in the state. It's an opportunity for him to open up some eyes when you go to Charleston, give those folks a chance to see him. They're going to play Fairmont later in the year, give people up there a chance to see him. And if he can acquit himself nicely, the different places they're going to be going to play games, he has this opportunity maybe to open up some eyes. And if you look at Oak Hill's history, they've had several players of the year, Tracy Shelton, P.G. Green, and Cornelius Jackson in a 10-year run back in the 90s, late 80s and 90s. So, maybe he can add himself to the wall they've got over there. I know that's something he would like to do, and he might have that opportunity with the schedule they're playing.
Oak Hill gets the win tonight over Westside by 12. And, Dave, we're going to try to save a little bit of extra time for Rick Kozlowski tonight. So I'm going to ask you, do you have anything to say to Koz? And we'll just relay it to him.
Yeah, tell Koz to stop avoiding you during Steeler games.
Oh.
Tell him to stop avoiding you.
Ooh, that hurt.
Well, we're both big fans. We used to complain to each other. I kind of missed it. We haven't done that in a while.
You've had a lot to complain about recently with the Steelers play. And as this Bengals fan who's watching his team in a 5-game losing streak, who is still a game and a half out of the first place in the division, is just perplexed by football right now. Yeah, I got nothing.
Well, I tell you what, they might get that. They might end up winning their last game. The losing streak, the Steelers might not win another game this year, but
they always find a way to beat the Bengals.
It's basketball season now. I'm happy about that.
There you go. Dave Morrison, thanks so much. Always a pleasure, Dave.
Guys, always nice talking to you. You guys have a good evening.
Thanks. And we're going to step aside, take a break. When we come back, we will have our poll question for the week. A little bit off the wall, but I think it's an interesting question. We'll have that. We'll have our results from last week's poll question. We'll also have Koz time. And again, a reminder for scores anytime. basketballnight.com, @hoops_roundup on Twitter, or type in Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia in the Facebook search bar. All those options. This is Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network.
Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia will return in 2 minutes on the Fast Break Sports Network.
This is high school basketball's voice in the Mountain State. Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Special thanks to all of our affiliates. You can listen on great radio stations throughout the Mountain State, including 105 KQV, WKQV Cowan, 105.5 FM, and heard in Braxton County on 106.9 FM, 103.7 Jack FM, WQWV in Fisher, the Valley's Watchdog, 1600 AM, WKKX Wheeling, 1370 AM, WVLY Moundsville, Jackson County's home for Southern Gospel, Singing News Radio 92.5 FM, WTHMLP, Ravenswood, Ripley, Knights Radio 91.5 FM, WRSG Middleburn, Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg, 740 AM, 106.5 FM, Classic Hits 106 WHFI Linside, 106.7 FM, 95 The Sports Fox, WBES Charleston, 950 AM, The Voice of the Coalfields, 101.9 FM and 1290 AM, WVOW in Logan, Light Rock 93R, WRRR St. Mary's, 93.9 FM, The Ticket, 102.3 FM WMTD in Hinton, the greatest oldies of all time. 98.5 FM and 101.5 FM WQAZLP Edmond Beckley. Tuned for you, Yap Radio, 101.7 FM WYAPLP in Clay. 104.5 FM WASPLP Huntington. 101.1 FM WVWPLP Wayne. 90.7 FM WFGH Fort Gay, and Marshall University's flagship station, The Cutting Edge, 88.1 FM WMUL in Huntington.
This is high school basketball's home for the Mountain State. Basketball Friday night in West Virginia on the Fast Break Sports Network. Now, back to your hosts, Bill Cornwell, Joe Linville, and Ryan Epling.
11:44 on this Basketball Friday night in West Virginia. Bill Cornwell is in the studio with us. Ryan Epling, Joe Linville here, and Marcus Constantino joins us now on the set of Basketball Friday night in West Virginia. Sometimes it feels like we just keep rolling people in here. There's just always somebody
roll them
else.
in, roll them out.
You know, there's still one more, but we'll get him maybe next week if he comes back. Mark, it's time for our poll question.
That's right, Ryan, and we'll go with last week's poll question. The results first. Should there be a running clock mercy rule in high school basketball? 65% of voters said yes, there should be, and 35% of voters said no. Now, this week's poll question, and this is kind of out in left field, but not really because it used to be this way. Should girls basketball be held in the winter as it is now, or in the fall as it used to be? You can go to basketballnight.com and cast your vote until 11:45 next week.
And I know that's out of left field, but what tripped that discussion, Joe, is that, we talked about the basketball mistake.
Right, with the basketball.
In Arizona, where the girls were playing with a boys' ball for a half in a game. And just remember the way it used to be. And
another pro, you don't have to share gym time. Because a lot of times the girls will practice right after school, and the boys don't get to practice till 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening.
And women's coaches of high school or of collegiate teams have better access to watching players for recruiting purposes,
right?
Instead of being in the middle of their own season.
So, but there's pros and cons to both of it.
Absolutely.
The one thing that I could see that would in West Virginia would cause a lot of consternation about this is the cheerleading championships in Charleston would be about the same time, and about be a little bit of a fight for space there.
Or the back-to-back weeks in March.
And volleyball has caught up in this state too.
It's caught on.
So.
Yes.
We're not advocating for it. We're just throwing this out there as just it's
a poll question. We're throwing out the scenarios.
It's a poll question. And I do want to mention that Michigan used to play girls basketball in the fall all the way up until the 06-07 season. What happened there was the U.S. Supreme Court declined a request from the Michigan High School Athletic Association to appeal lower court rulings that said the season alignment discriminated against women because they had it at a different season.
It all goes to court.
That's over my head. But anyway, that's our poll question. I think it's an interesting one. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with the way things are currently from that standpoint. Right. But again, we're just throwing out ideas.
Rolling. That's it.
There we go.
I mean, and there's so many variations on girls basketball anyway. Don't they still have in Iowa the 6-on-6 or the where you only play defense or offense? That was something that was a weird rule up to at least a couple of years ago.
No, you're right, and it was 6-on-6. New Jersey did for a long time. Iowa did it. For state championship games.
I think unbelievable. I think that it's gone beyond that. We don't have to do that anymore.
No, but actually, Iowa did it until I wanted to find this out until 1993, which is still
close enough,
relatively recent in the world of You know what? It's cause time.
Oh yeah.
Rick Kozlowski of the Martinsburg Journal joins us on Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. All right, Rick, you got 12 minutes. Go.
I got soul, baby. I got soul.
You do have soul.
Okay, so I want to know what the heck Morrison told you guys to tell me, because I kind of heard something, but I didn't hear the whole thing.
It had to do with the Steelers.
He says he misses talking with you about, I guess, wallowing in the pity of the Steelers.
Was it
during games?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you should call me up or something. You hear that, Dave Morrison? Call me up.
It goes both ways, right?
Call me maybe.
All right, Rick.
I was impressed that Dave Morrison now has bumper music too.
Right, kind of surprised me too.
I mean, I got it right away. He took him 6 years, but hey.
Not that we've created a healthy competition between two of our favorite sports writers or anything. Martinsburg picks up a big win tonight. Bulldogs 2-0. As we talked about earlier, this program's just winning everything right now.
Well, they have pretty much everybody back from last year, except for Corey Barnett, two-time All-State player who is now one of the second leading scorer at Frederick Community College. So he's doing well for himself. Washington is in a bit of a struggle. They are extremely young. They have a new coach. I think there's maybe 3 upperclassmen, but it's basically sophomores and freshmen, and which is kind of what happened to them during football season. They kind of took some lumps, and I think it's going to happen again. But I think with a new coach who is enthusiastic and is going to try to get things situated there, and we'll see what happens. But Martinsburg, looking pretty strong in its first 2 games. Got a couple of their football players back. Grant Harmon, first game of the year, scored 21 points. He was just, I guess you might say, he was kind of the quarterback of the team for the first game. And then when you talk about some depth that they have, he only scored 4 points tonight, and other people, jumped in the fray.
Is Grant Harmon? I hate putting this as a definite thing with anyone because I just don't think that it's really a measurable thing. I think it's safe to say, though, that Grant Harmon is among the most versatile athletes that West Virginia has had in a long time.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, when you look at him, he's a 3-sport player: football, where he has excelled; basketball, where he's done pretty darn well. And let's see if I can look for a rhyme for baseball. I'm not sure where I can go with that one, but shortstop on the baseball team, which made the Final Four last year and actually took Hurricane to extra innings. Hurricane won the state championship, and he's going to weigh his options as far as college goes, but he might wind up not even playing sports in college. He's a 4.5 student in the classroom, and
good grief.
He's just got it going on.
Yeah,
he does.
Absolutely, and those are kids that are kind of easy to root for too, because I think to be that good, part of it has to come naturally, but you also have to refine it to be as good as what he is at all 3 sports.
Oh, absolutely. You have to work at it. There is natural ability, and I think in a lot of ways he's made himself better because of how he's worked at things. You go on the football field, and he has just this uncanny knack for making things happen. And when you look at him, sometimes you just kind of scratch your head and say, well, how does he do it? And I don't think he is, certainly isn't the most flashiest player, but fundamentally, hey, we can still win with fundamentals. It's an amazing thing, those fundamentals. He's very strong in that regard.
Cause another team up your way that had a late football season, but has certainly made the transition real well, is Musselman. They're 4-1 now after beating Hedgesville tonight by 5.
Wrong Musselman. That was the girls' team.
Well, that was the girls' team. Okay, I'm looking on the wrong one, but yeah. Actually, well, the guys are 2-2. Yeah, they played Woodgrove, Virginia tonight. You're right, but that's another situation where coaches are having to fight that transition. And that's a good thing. I mean, there's so many good football teams up your way, and it's a pleasant problem to have, obviously.
I think so. It's good to see kids playing more than one sport. This day and age, somewhere along the line, kids got the idea, and I think it comes through parents and some of their coaches outside of school who tell them they need to specialize in sports. But, hey, what happened last Saturday? Who won the Heisman Trophy?
Kyler Murray.
And what does Kyler Murray do?
He's a $4 million a year baseball player.
Going to be an Oakland A.
And a quarterback, multi-sport athlete.
How about that?
So those things actually can work. What an amazing thing, isn't it?
It really is. I think we've gotten so far away from that and this idea of specialization, which may sound logical, but in practice just tends to not be.
Well, I sometimes think that when people talk about specialization, whatever the sport it is, they don't necessarily have the best interest of the kids in mind. And why I say that, when we started playing sports, what was the biggest thing about playing sports? Having fun.
Yeah.
Enjoying it. And
absolutely.
I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, I played a lot of different sports, and I enjoyed them all. And I just think that sometimes you get yourself pigeonholed into a certain sport, and maybe you aren't having as much fun as if you would be out with your buddies who are doing something else at the time, playing some kind of sport. And you're concentrating on whatever you're in, and the rest of the guys are having a good old time in the parking lot, basketball court, and you're concentrating on swinging a baseball bat. I don't know.
I seen a post. I seen a post there earlier. It said if your kid is not being successful on the baseball field, maybe it's because he's been playing too much Fortnite.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about that.
Hey, Cos, I do want to ask you, just get your opinion on something. You was talking about Washington there being, maybe down a little bit. Looking at their roster, they've only got 4 seniors on their team, 4 juniors, and they got a slew of sophomores. I mean, that's kind of surprising for, a fairly large AAA school over in the Panhandle.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. I think, it's, why there aren't, upperclassmen, why it's, dominated by sophomores and freshmen. I really don't know, but I think, given that they have a new coach, you might want to have that fresh start where you bring the guys up with you and come, 2-3 years from now, maybe you have something really going on. Certainly when you look back at Washington's first few years, they had young ball teams, and then they finally kind of had that team that everybody thought was going to win the state championship. They were undefeated going into Charleston and lost to Huntington in the state semifinals. And I'm not sure off the top of my head what year that was, but that was kind of like, the year they were pointing to. And they thought they had everything, coming together. They played a bad game, but beaten by Huntington, and that was the end of it. And the program's kind of, fallen off a little bit since then. But maybe for them, with the new coach, with the young team, maybe that's what they're trying to do is build into that kind of program once again.
And Rick, before we let you go, let's just ask for your opinion on our poll question. Again, there's absolutely no malice to this or coming from anywhere other than just an idea. And we'll have to keep this short. I apologize. I ran a little bit late on asking this. But how would moving girls basketball to the fall, if someone were to somehow decide that's what should be done, how would that affect coverage of the sport? How would that affect participation in the sport?
Well, do you guys remember when girls basketball used to be in the fall?
Faintly.
I know better than that.
I was 10 when it moved, guys. Come on.
Well, I know you were young, but I think a couple of the other gentlemen probably remember that.
Yep.
I think what happens now is having girls basketball along with the boys makes things a heck of a lot easier for practice, because if you recall, back when girls basketball was in the fall, volleyball was in the winter. It takes longer to put up volleyball nets, so you're losing court time.
And Rick, we're right up against it now. I led you too long on that one. That was my fault. Rick, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, always a pleasure, guys. You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too. That's Rick Kozlowski of the Martinsburg Journal. And that is another edition of Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Once again, all the scores are available on basketballnight.com, at hoops_roundup on Twitter. For the entire gang, thanks for joining us. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. Tune in next Friday for the latest high school basketball action from across the Mountain State. Visit basketballnight.com for our show archives, the poll question of the week, and the basketballnight.com scoreboard. Until next time, have a great weekend, and thank you for listening to Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia. The preceding broadcast was a presentation of the Fast Break Sports Network. Copyright 2018. All rights reserved.